Welcome back to another episode of Very Vehicular. As always, I'm your host, Brian Scotto. Today's guest is one of the OGs in our space. He's quite possibly the first ever automotive influencer. That's right. We're talking about RJ de Vera. And this guy has consulted on everything from products to magazines. His consulting even landed him this bit role in a small LA underground movie about street racing. Maybe you've seen it. Anyway, get locked in because this is over 3 hours of really great conversation. RJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You ready for this one?
I feel like I need to stretch.
Yeah,
because I've listened and watched to a couple episodes, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna be there for a while. We're gonna talk about all sorts of stuff.
We're gonna hit all of it. Yeah. All of it. The first question I want to bring up, I just want to get right into this one because you are like a veteran in the space now. I know you still look 25.
I hope it stays. By the way,
yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
You are, yeah. By the way, I was gonna save this for later, but I spoke to Richard Chang this morning. Okay. And he asked me if you could please lay out what your skincare regimen is because he doesn't understand how you still look the same age as when he first met you, 30 plus years ago.
Yeah, I drink blood. I tell everyone I drink blood. I miss Rich. I haven't seen him in a minute. So.
Yeah, I've been talking to Rich about trying to do some projects with him.
Oh, that's awesome. He's such a good guy.
And not to make this all about Rich to start, but I think Rich left the space so early that I think a lot of his contributions are almost forgotten.
For sure.
Including help put drifting on the map in America.
So many
with
things.
That original Super Street story.
What I loved about Rich when I met him was he wasn't from the space and he brought a writing style that was so elevated.
Yeah.
I remember proofreading one of his first articles and I went to Matt Pearson, the editor at that time. I'm like, this is too high end for us, you know? But he just changed kind of the feel of Super Street.
Yeah.
Because of his writing style and how inquisitive he was as a journalist that brought, Matt, of course, was the original editor-in-chief, but he came from enthusiast books. And I was just a kid up from the street that was, learned how to write and shoot to contribute. And then Rich came in, who was a true writer.
Yeah.
And he really elevated the game of the magazine, which, to your point, really helped blossom it into what it became.
Yeah, I think he left Super Street, went to the New York Times.
I know.
And then 0 to 60. So he just kept going up.
Yeah, exactly. 0 to 60, though, because Nad's talked about it, I remember seeing it and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, because it was, and you talked about Maxim in another podcast, it felt like Maxim and a car magazine had come together and I had not seen that. There were the enthusiast books and then there were the Motor Trends, even Car in Europe, all these really elevated mainstream books, and 0 to 60 fit in this pop culture automotive thing. And that's, to me, and some of the writing that was in it, it was just this is amazing.
Thanks. It's always good when the show starts with compliments, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So back to the first question. You have spent, 30 plus years in the business now?
Yeah, 3 decades.
Yeah, 3 full decades here. And as someone who has seen that and seen it from so many different POVs, right? You've seen it as an enthusiast, you've seen it from the media side, you've seen it from a product side in multiple different businesses, and now from the SEMA side, right? The organization that tries to make this all make sense for all of us. What is your health check on car culture right now? And I asked this to a lot of the OGs, people who've been around for a while. We've been through the ups and downs, we've seen all this. How do you feel car culture, the tuning community, aftermarket? How do you think everything's doing right now? Where do you see it?
In this current moment, I feel like it's in a really great place. And I've seen it enough that it bobs and weaves and ebbs and flows in these, peaks and valleys. It definitely feels like we're on this upswing. And whether we're at the peak or climbing to a peak, partly because there's just so much content and media around all forms of car culture. Look at Pikes Peak, and how big that's gotten 15, 20 years ago. You had to be really hardcore to know about Pikes Peak. And that's just one microcosm of everything that's getting talked about F1, right? Everyone has kind of accepted and embraced it because of Drive to Survive. And so that helps, the Fast and Furious franchise, 10 movies, 25 years in the making. I feel like there's all these things, Gymkhana, right? However many you made. Like all these things kind of came together and have been building the culture for, I'd say, the last 10 years, because I feel like the last big dip was the recession in '09, and it really died down. Like millennials didn't really care about cars. Everyone worried about putting food on the table, except for the enthusiasts who were like,
but it was the core. Yeah,
it was the core. It wasn't this mainstream thing like that pop that happened when Fast One came out. And I feel like now in 2026, it's like there's so much momentum. All the people that are creating content on YouTube, all the things that are happening in movies, all the fashion that you can buy at PacSun and Abercrombie and Tilly's and whatever, it's just coming together. So to me, the health check it's in a really good place. You look at the SEMA show post-pandemic, to where it is now, we've grown almost back to 2019 levels. Really, really close. 24, actually, we had more exhibitors at the SEMA show than we had ever had in the history of the event. And so that's just a good temperature check for the industry. But for me personally, going to car meets, meeting people, talking to people, going to Car Week, Festival of Speed, SEMA show, whatever it is, the crowds are amazing. Like everything's like sold out and, wall to wall people. So to me, it's exciting. I love these moments,
So I agree with you, and I think especially the pop culture side is something I've never seen before. And remember, I worked before 0 to 60. I was in hip hop car culture, so I worked for Rides Mag, and that was a big boom, right? We all remember spinners and 24-inch chrome wheels and dubs and so on and so on.
What was the show where everyone went, Cribs?
Oh yeah, Cribs,
right?
And
then cars were always a big part of
Cribs.
And then
Pimp My Ride, obviously grew out of that. And then you had like the Funkmaster Flex car show and the Dub car show and all those kind of things.
I don't know if you know this, but I had a show on MTV. Did you know this?
Yeah, what was it called?
Trick It Out.
Trick It Out.
Yeah. 2 seasons of it. It aired the same time that Pimp My Ride. It was a lot of fun. It was cheesy as hell, but
fun to make.
Yeah.
I mean, but that like the mid-aughts just really embraced cheese.
Yeah.
Like cheese was just
people loved it. Yeah.
It was. I mean, think about how cheesy Pimp My Ride was.
Yeah.
But,
oh my God.
And Monster Garage and all those shows.
All the shows.
But they were so entertaining at the time.
I think people watch it for the entertainment.
Yeah.
Even when we made Trick It Out, it's like we had these themes like alien theme or sports theme. And it was like, all right, RJ, like, because the guys that we gave the cars to were actual shops.
Yeah.
And they wanted to build like real cars. And they were like, we're going to give you this space age theme. And they're like, what do we do with that? And I'm like, figure it out. It's for TV.
Yeah.
So it was just something that was huge at that moment, to your point.
But so I think like pop culture wise, like one, I don't think it's ever been bigger, at least in my lifetime, right? Maybe it was bigger in the 50s, 60s and hot rodding era, but for my lifetime. But it also, I don't think has ever been cooler. Right, like you're seeing like Kim Kardashian is dating Lewis Hamilton and like showing up at F1 races, right? Like and like these cool brands like Kith and everything are doing collabs with with auto brands, right? And like and like what was sort of nuanced to us is now being put on T-shirts and being sold at designer shops. So I think that part's cool. But when I mention this to some other people who maybe aren't seeing that as much, they say, we have all this regulation, we have all these problems, we've got people getting put in jail for tuning cars, we've got EPA issues, we've got, the obviously future of EV and what does that mean for combustion. So it's like, I think depending on how you look at it, and then on top of that, especially living in California, we've got like all these laws now that we're like all of a sudden like CHP feels like they're targeting, car enthusiasts, right?
Yeah.
So how do you see it from that side? And obviously, I know SEMA, does put a lot of work into this.
For sure. I mean, thanks for the softball there.
Yeah.
Thanks for
we'll
the
start with softballs. Don't worry.
On the advocacy side, it's a very big area for SEMA, and not a lot of people know or realize that SEMA is a nonprofit. And all the money that we make from the SEMA show, from the PRI show, from membership, all of that goes back into the industry.
Yep.
A lot of it goes into government advocacy, whether it's, our biggest things right now, we have something called Right to Race, where in certain states, we're trying to implement bills into law where if a neighborhood gets built around a racetrack, they don't get to use the nuisance law to shut a racetrack down. which has happened a lot.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
My hometown track,
Yeah.
Englishtown, got
So I think
shut down
we've
because of that.
implemented in a number of states now, and maybe up to 10, or getting close to 10, and we're looking at it state by state. And then there's another thing that we're working called right to modify, because there are a lot of technology things that are going to be standardized in cars in 2029, 2030, a lot of the ADAS stuff. And right to modify is just a bill that continues to give access to aftermarket brands to be able to access all of these technologies, so that if you lift a vehicle, you lower it, you add a winch, whatever it is, you put a wrap on it, that you still have the manufacturers, all these aftermarket manufacturers, still have access to recalibrate systems. Because can you imagine if you don't have the access, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you personalize your vehicles? How do you lift your Jeep? How do you lower your Ferrari, the new one?
If all of a sudden the CAN bus is like, nope, this is wrong, and now the car won't start.
Yeah, or it won't let you move.
Right.
So there's a lot of things on that front that SEMA's a part of. I would say, when I was growing up in the 90s, it felt the same, though.
Yeah.
Where there was like law enforcement that were like, and you talked about in this one of the podcasts, like, we all lowered our cars either by cutting springs or like heating them up.
Yeah.
Right? And then
That looks right.
And you would have the bounce, right? The Brooklyn bounce, And of course, if
We called it the Honda Hop.
okay. I don't know what we called it here, but it was just a thing. If you had a lowered import, you were getting pulled over. Because in Southern California, there was some correlation with, import car culture and Asian gangs. So they would use that as an excuse, and you would kind of get profiled, which really sucked.
Oh, I bet.
But it was going around, and there were, in certain cities, law enforcement that would bring their stick out, and that was like their measurement of whether you were too low or not.
Yeah.
22 inches to your headlight. And then there's even some of them that would have you pop hood and like, looking for nitrous or something like that, right? So I know that's happening now with like Montana plates and things of that nature. So I don't feel it's that different. I think people, if they didn't live in that area, they didn't know about it.
Right.
Are there more regulation coming now? Yeah, I mean, we're fighting lots of like trail laws and closures to like trails. So then you can't, take your overlanding vehicle or your off-road vehicle. So I think there's more of that in certain categories. But in terms of like car culture or street car culture, I feel like it was there back then. It just depended on where you live. It's more pervasive now, I think, across the country. But I think the industry, like we as enthusiasts, like we live through we just keep going.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
I mean, in New York, you're right. Like, I would get pulled over at least once a week.
yeah.
Like in a slam Golf with tinted windows. Like, I would get pulled over all the time, stripped, like pulled out of the car, sat on the curb as they go through the car, like watch them take my JLW4s, unscrew them out of the box to make sure there's not like drugs in the box, things like that.
Do you miss car audio?
I do. I
miss
wanted to
car
come
audio.
back. I miss it a lot because I don't think it wasn't something that I super loved compared to like other people, but it was like a must have. Right, like
What's
you
the
had
first
to
things
have
you put in the car?
You had to have a box.
Yeah.
Like you had to have like
the
at
Rockford
least,
Fosgate app.
Fosgate, and then like I had Orions. Do you remember the?
Yes, I remember.
Which were like
Orion.
really cool.
That was like premium.
Yeah, and then later on I got the Fosgates, and because they came with the bridge, so you could make them all look like one stack, which just looked visually cool.
Yeah.
And then I had like a mobile Sony Mobile ES mini disc player.
Wow.
Which was like so cool.
Yeah, the mini disc player. You were in another level. Because it was like the Alpine pull-out.
That was cool.
And then
the Kenwood mask that would flip black so that you couldn't tell that there was a head unit in it.
Remember, everyone would have to bring their pull-out because if you put it under the seat, people would break their glass.
Early you'd have the Benzie box and you'd be walking around with that.
And then
later
then
you had the detachable face. And you know how many like Wendy's I left the detachable face in? You get back in the car and you're like, oh no, my face is there.
Yeah.
You go run back in.
That was such a great era.
It was. It really was. I miss car culture. I miss magazine era car culture.
Sure.
Not because I have this like love for the print era.
Sure.
Which is true.
Me too.
But I loved how slow the information got to us. So like you would go to a show and you would see someone with something new you've never seen before.
Sure.
And you'd be like, commit it to memory.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like you had a cell phone in your pocket, you could take a photo of it.
It wasn't so instant.
No.
You know, and when I started at Super Street, we were still shooting slide film.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got taught to bracket probably like, you know, you would shoot things like 6 stops up, 6 stops down just to make sure you got the shot, especially hot import nights because it was dark.
Oh, yeah.
So you would shoot like 30-second exposures. You would double expose and you didn't know if you got the shot or not.
For our younger audience, can you explain hot import nights to them? Because was hot import nights was like, I'm going to say it now, and back then I probably was like a little jaded about it, but it was cool.
It
like
was
the
cool.
first one I ever went to was really cool.
There was this great progression on, let's just call it car shows.
Yeah.
And like car culture based car shows, because when I was growing up, they didn't exist. In the early 90s, if you had a modified import, you went to a couple places. You either went to the street races or a test and two night at some 8th Mile track. There was one in Long Beach called Terminal Island.
Of course.
You went to house parties and you drove up and down the street thinking you were cool. And you may have gone to a couple sales of like certain import shops.
Okay.
So CarMate was one big one in Glendale, and they would have a yearly sale, and every crew came out flexing.
We had the same thing.
Yeah,
we had this place called Rapid Parts, and all the crews would come up and like, no, you wouldn't buy anything. You just show up.
You'd buy the air freshener, the Squash air freshener, the CXX3 or whatever it's called.
Squash.
The Squash. Ooh.
That's a good throwback.
So then the first import car show happened that I'm aware of. Actually, 2 in 1 year in 95. Import Show Off, which was held at the Pomona Fairplex, Ken Miyoshi and the team, and then Performance Motorsports Expo, Todd Konetko at the Velodrome in, I think it's somewhere in South Bay. And then that continued to evolve and got bigger and
started
bigger.
To tour, because if I remember correctly, Import Show Off came to the East Coast eventually.
But it was touring like LA, San Francisco, San Diego, and I think it was in 97 when Richard Goodwin and the guys started Hot Import Nights, and the first one was in Long Beach. And I remember going to it like real skeptical. Yeah. Because I was a hater too. Like, what is this? And I didn't even bring a car because I was part of a car club that competed, that won a lot. But I just came with the Super Street guys to shoot it.
Yep.
Mike Munar, who was a classmate or a colleague of mine at UCLA, he was kind of part of that group that was helping putting it together with Richard Goodwin and the team. And after seeing the first one, I was like, this is pretty cool. Because it melded like this like club culture with car culture, which felt like a natural fit. Because before that, you would go to these 18 and over club events in LA, and there was just a huge contingent of people with modified cars. And then people knew each other within LA car culture through a number of things, like you're part of a dance crew. Oh, you're RJ from, if I was part of a dance crew, from this dance crew, or you were part of a car crew, or you were a promoter of some sort, or you were some sort of gang member. And you kind of got known for that. I was known as RJ with a white Integra GSR who had a girlfriend from this dance crew. That was kind of who I was, sign, So when Hot Import Nights came together, it became this mashup of a car show and really a nightclub. Yeah,
because it was like DJing and breakdancing were like a big part of that at the time.
Yeah, so there were DJs that they brought in. There was a big stage. There were some places where you parked the car, you couldn't see the car. Yeah. Because it wasn't lit up well. There were areas that were lit up well and there were areas that weren't. So you were almost, it was like a rave. A lot of people called it a rave with cars in the way. Yeah. Initially.
That's kind of true.
And I was like,
with cars in the way. Yeah.
It was kind of what it was.
But I also think without understanding Hot Import Nights, it's kind of hard to understand what the cars looked like in the early 2000s. Because I think I think about this now, and I don't know if at the time I was like cognizant of this, but you were really building these spectacles that stood out in a rave. So like all of a sudden things like Underglow and like Lambo doors
10 TVs
and made a lot of sense because you were displaying your car inside of a club.
Yeah. And there's definitely people that hated that. I was not the biggest fan of it because I came from an era where it was super clean and you slammed your car by heating springs but running 16s, and it was kind of this OEM plus vibe because you couldn't get a whole lot. Yeah. And then the car shows became such a way that people identify themselves, even myself, where you just kept going like, what can I do next? What can I do next?
Right.
What can I do
And then
next?
it becomes like a checkbox thing, and you're
And
like,
then you don't even drive the cars anymore.
well, now it's like they're putting mirrors underneath the car because they want to see if you've chrome plated like everything under the car.
And so
it was like almost like lowrider culture.
It was kind of interesting that because like Sport Compact Car was the first, and Turbo Magazine felt like the two magazines that first featured import cars in their magazine. Turbo did it in a way of like, oh, this Honda is turbocharged and they're running at Battle of the Imports.
Right. Or this DSM's pretty fast. You should watch out for it.
Yeah. Dave Busher, right? And then Sport Compact Car had more what they called Euro lowriders, which were a bunch of Hondas that were wire-wheeled, hydros, custom paint with the pinstriping. And then there was a group of people, a lot of us in Southern California that were buying option magazines and tuning in the way you would see cars modified in a Japanese magazine, right? Before JDM was JDM, the term didn't exist. So there was nothing that was covering that. And so there was a moment where like it evolved and an import show-off came and then you were just like, okay, well, how do I take this thing that was the style in Japan but make it American?
Yeah.
Right? Or youth car culture in America. And that's how it evolved to this thing at Hot Import Nights where you had 10 TVs and different taillights and colored interiors and you didn't drive the car anymore.
No, it was just like a moving statue at that point.
No, it was a movable couch, right?
But
a piece of art, let's call it.
I think while it was happening, like you, because I was this Volkswagen guy and it was all about performance and, I wanted cars that drove well and subtle and things like that was a little like was a bridge too far. Yeah. But I couldn't not appreciate the spectacle. Yeah. Like when Hot Import Nights came to town, I would go and then I would have these like secret dreams of like maybe I build just a Hot Import Nights car. Yeah. Because like
just for Hot Import Nights.
Just for Hot Import Nights, like not my regular car. Sure. And you're like, and with a House of Color paint job and all these crazy things that were coming into the culture from that. Because it was, and one of the reasons why too, and I think we forget about this, there were girls there.
There were a lot. Yeah,
there were a lot of girls at Hot Import Nights, which was something that was not normal for like an afternoon car show. Like
for sure, it was kind of like Americana reinventing itself. I first got noticed by a guy named Mark Vaughn from Auto Week.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he wrote an article called.
I love Mark, by the way.
Yeah, he's
a great guy.
Yeah, I love his humor.
I saw him at Luft Cult like 2 years ago. Yeah. It was so good to catch up with him.
It's amazing that he's still doing it, you know. But he wrote a story in Auto Week called "Passing the Flames," and it was this idea that there was a group of young people in Southern California reinventing the wheel without knowing that they're reinventing the wheel. It was basically hot rodding in the 90s, and it was just like the 60s, except instead of muscle cars, it was all these Japanese imports. And so I was one of 3 or 4 people talked about in that article. And that's what it felt like it was, you know, it was a bunch of young people reinventing the wheel, not really knowing it.
So previously on this pod, I think I referenced you as like potentially the first like modern day automotive influencer, right?
In a way.
Yeah. And I thought about it a little bit more as I was thinking about and preparing for today, that to us, you know, a pre-social media world, you were that kid, whether or not you knew it or not, you were. And you were definitely this guy who was, you know, an influencer, because before, like, and I understand sort of your background because of Richard Chang, which was like they connected to you because you knew what was cool. More so
that's kind. I'd like to think so.
But that's what Richard told me. Like that's how he saw it. That you were like this guy who was around cool stuff, was involved in cool stuff, and because of that, they sort of, you know, gave you an editor at large position, and you came in because they knew you had like the finger on the pulse, which is what the modern day sort of, you know, influencer creator market, which is all we talk about now, and that has become the everything. But like, how do you like your position as the first? You are the genesis of this problem we have.
That's very flattering. It was pre-social media.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw it come back around, mostly with TJ and Dustin, Chris Fix, even Amelia in the early days. So it gave me some deja vu moments when I saw them kind of up and coming. And of course, when I was at Meguiars, I had done some deals with TJ and Dustin, and then ended up being Throttle and Fix. So, but yeah, back in the time that I did it, I didn't know, because I was just so excited to like get brands involved. And then I realized it was an opportunity for me to further what I wanted to do. Much like content creators now use, creating content, building notoriety to get brand deals to do what they want, like Go Racing or whatever it is. So for me, it was the same. Matt Pearson, Super Street had this skyrocket rise at Peterson Publishing, and all of a sudden everyone was taking notice of like, what are all these, what is this segment of kids building Hondas and Mitsubishis and Toyotas? Matt was kind enough to be like, I've got this guy on staff that's like been doing this for a while, which is crazy to say because it's the mid 90s, but he's like, he loves it. He knows all about it. He travels to Japan all the time. You should talk to him. So I started talking. I think Honda was one of the first people I talked to. And I went to a meeting at American Honda in Torrance. I had size 36 khakis that I folded and the bangs that were dyed. And I got pulled over when I got out of Honda in my lowered Integra. But I was just shocked that someone from this corporate company that I looked up to wanted to talk to me. And I didn't know what they wanted to talk. They just wanted to know, like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Like, why is it lowered? Well, what are these wheels? And so that just became my MO of like me talking to people for me, I wanted to get them involved. And then it became like, can you help us? So like PepsiCo was one of the first non-endemic that reached out and said, hey, we understand you helped with the Fast and Furious movie. We're really interested in this culture. We have a new product coming out that we think makes sense for this demo of like young people who are passionate about cars and just culture and living life. It was called Pepsi Blue. Can you help us? And I was like, yeah, I can help you. Like, what do you want to? Well, we're looking at this thing called Hot Import Nights. Oh yeah. I've been there since the beginning, and like sign me up as a consultant. I'll help you and I'll give you a bunch of ideas. Right. So then that just built for a number of years and ended up with like my own wheel line. I did a deal with Valvoline, which is why I said a lot of some of the stuff that I watched Dustin and TJ do is deja vu, because I was the Valvoline guy before any of the social media. But you talked about it in this one podcast where for us, we had to do a deal with someone that had an outlet.
Yeah.
A magazine, a television show, whatever it was.
You had to have your media partner.
You had to have your media partner. So I built all these cars, but I needed to make sure it would get featured. Luckily, I was an editor at large at Super Street, so a lot of that was easy. Because if you didn't, then there was no value in it because there was no media in it. So it was a very interesting dynamic of this. I needed media, whether it was Super Street or Modified Mag or whatever, or Grip Video.
Yeah.
Or the DVDs. Versus what it became, right? And YouTube and what became the platform for people to create content and gain influence. So I had influence in a very different way than what people have now. And the reach is so different. Like my reach, the highest circ for Super Street was 350,000. Right. And that's like nothing in the social media.
I know,
world
but
now.
in the print era, that was massive.
It was massive.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize like that was bigger than most magazines you think are big.
Sure.
Like that was outselling like well-known magazines at the time.
But that was the biggest. It wasn't as it wasn't as global for sure. And I ended up in a bunch of Japanese magazines as well. I ended up in Car, which is probably like, to me, was like wow, I'm going to pinch myself moment because I got a feature in Car Magazine, which was one of the most beautiful magazines, right? Yep. And they sent a photographer out to shoot me, and I couldn't still believe it. It's one of the magazines I'll keep forever.
That's cool, yeah.
But yeah, it was a moment where I really enjoyed life. I enjoyed helping brands build their brand within a space that I really loved. I ended up helping make product, to your point, and diecast product. I was even Forza Motorsports. I was a consultant that helped advise on what parts you could get to modify it. I think it was Forza 2 or 3, even like the bumpers and the specialty cars you could win. And then I had my own wheel line. So all of these things that I kind of see content creators do now, it does take me back.
Yeah.
TJ is a good friend, so we have this running joke, and John Sabal as well. He's like, dude, you were the first influencer. I'm like, that's kind. I don't make the money that some of the influencers do. But
the people who come first never do.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to take a quick break, come back. I want to dig into kind of where that all took you. Oh, hey, what's up? Here we are with another Storytime interruption brought to you by my good friends at FCP Euro. Look, if you've spent any time in the Euro scene, you have heard the term OEM Plus. Okay, for those of you who don't know, OEM Plus is modifying your car with just OEM parts, usually taken from either a higher spec car or a newer car. To most people, it is the morally superior way to modify a car and still consider yourself a purist. Anyway, back to what we were saying. The other day, driving the S8, it was brought to my attention that it needed new brakes. And I thought, oh, I probably need to fix these. But why fix these when you can upgrade these? I found a bunch of big brake kits I could go buy, but then I realized that there was a really good OEM Plus option, which was upgrading to the next generation D3, either A8 or S8 brakes. I started looking on Marketplace. That's usually where I go. And it occurred to me, you know what? FCP Euro probably has most of what I need, and they did. Head over to fcpeuro.com, filled the cart, and surprisingly, it was not that much more than buying the parts used. That's right, I was able to get brand new parts to do this great OEM Plus upgrade, all from FCP Euro, brand new. If you too want to mod your car and you like the OEM Plus route, remember, you can go to FCP Euro and find a lot of those OEM Plus upgrades right there if you know what you're looking for. fcpeuro.com for those of us who have an affliction for European cars. I was hoping we could maybe go the full 2.5 hours without mentioning Fast and Furious, but you are so synonymous with it.
Yeah.
But I want to start by saying that I don't find you synonymous with it because I knew of you before Fast and Furious. And when I saw you in Fast and Furious, I thought, that's cool. Because I saw it as like, you're giving a nod to us. You're giving a nod to all these people who read Super Street, who like are following what people are doing. And it would be the equivalent of if the new Fast and Furious put a TJ Hunt or an Adam LZ in the movie, right? Where it's like, it's just a nod. It's that perfect cameo. But when I look at sort of this, I don't know, I don't want to call it revisionist history, but I think sometimes a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on your involvement in Fast and Furious.
Yeah, it's usually the first topic on a podcast.
Right. Not realizing that like there was a decade of stuff before that got you to that point. And then there was all this other stuff that you did after it. Yeah. And in a way, in a way, Fast and Furious, I think, had a bigger impact years later than it did immediately after.
Yes.
Right?
It did.
Like we all remember like Fast and Furious 2 came out and it felt like the series was over.
Yes.
And then Tokyo Drift came out and it was cool because it was different, but it like was lacking. And then all of a sudden like Fast and Furious came back years later. So if you're, if you're probably in your, maybe mid 30s or younger, you probably have a different view of it than you and I do. So I say that because like, I don't want to spend too much time on Fast because everyone asks you Fast questions, but for you putting that film together, like what was your like POV coming in? Obviously you worked with Lieberman on it. Did it seem, before it came out, did it seem like it was going to be something like so impactful for the community?
I thought it was going to go straight to DVD.
Yeah, same.
I remember signing on, and I've talked about this in other pods, where Craig got hired.
Yeah.
They wanted someone younger that knew the scene. They came to a car show. I met them. And I literally asked them, "Is like, oh, you guys are making a movie? It's like a DVD movie?" Because DVDs are a thing. Yeah. And they're like, "No, RJ, we're going to put this on the big screen." I was like, in my head, I was like, "Yeah, right." And then we made the film, and no one cared about the film when we were making it. Yeah, we'll send you parts, no problem.
Right.
No one took it seriously. And then the film hit, right? And the initial box office number estimate was like, oh, you guys are going to make 12 million. It tested really well. They moved the when it would debut in theaters, and it made like 40 mil or something crazy, right? And the movie was, I think the budget was like 38 million or something. So then everybody was on Leno, Letterman, you name it. And it became this thing. And then years later, it became a bigger thing.
For sure.
Right? So it wasn't, my experience was, and even when they offered me the role, and Paul, I really have to thank Paul for that, because I didn't even ask for a role, even though I'd read the script and I knew there were Asian characters in it. And Paul was the one like, you should be in this. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that you guys are asking us that you're not listening to us on. Like, I don't know.
Right, because you're worried that it's going to come out and be bad.
This doesn't feel good, And even when it did come out, I got a lot of flack.
Of course you did, because the movie's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, I know. Yeah, we couldn't reshoot that. Like, it's a movie. It's not a documentary,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So my POV was like, so my S2000 was rented to the franchise for the first film. It was the villain's car. They put Ninja Stars on it. We call them snowflakes on Super Street. I was like, I am not driving. Everyone else was like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be huge. I repainted that car before the movie came out and put different wheels on it. And everyone's like, what are you doing? This movie's going to be huge. I'm like, nah, I don't want to be affiliated with it. So the S2000,
Now it'd sell for like $1 million on Bring a Trailer.
So it's the pink one that's sitting at the Peterson.
Oh, okay.
Because I sold it to them for the second movie. They didn't want to rent anything. So if you pop the trunk, you'll see all 4 colors that the car was. Because I was so hell bent that I wasn't going to have the car be affiliated with the film. That's how I looked at it. That's a telling story, right? So, but they were like, "Can you bring the S2000?" I'm like, "It's not black anymore, and the stickers are gone." They're like, "Well, what color is it?" I'm like, "It's blue, and it's got different wheels." And they're like, "Well, just bring it anyway because it's the car." I'm like, "Okay." And I had just launched a wheel line at the time because I was trying to move away, and I would leverage the movie because I knew I could leverage it for certain reasons. But I was more focused about the next thing and not like my involvement in Fast. But you know, if a Pepsi came in and said, "Hey, we know you worked on this film," like, hell yes, I did.
Yeah.
What can we do moving forward, right? And I built a bunch of Evos that we gave away that were Pepsi cars. But it was to me, it was just a tool. And even now, you know, we leverage it just to get me some interviews and whatever, and then we'll pivot to whatever is important to the organization. But it is a huge part of my life. You know, it's one of the, you asked Amelia about her tipping point. It's one of the tipping points. But,
interesting.
But my story is like hers. It's this progressive, you parlay, you build, you parlay, and you gain more experience. You do something different that adds to the resume. And now it's, 30 years plus. So.
Yeah. What do you think was the tipping point for Fast and Furious? Because I don't know if the first movie is my favorite because it's a nostalgia, and I definitely went and saw it in the theater, and then I drove like a complete idiot leaving the theater with all my friends, and as we all did. But then I think it kind of disappeared for me for years, and then all of a sudden
because 2 was too video gamey, right?
Yeah.
I think there was so much. So first tipping point is number 1,
right?
Because
of course
people watched it 6-7 times, which was crazy.
I probably have watched it 34. I mean, I had the DVD, and if friends were over for like a barbecue at the house, we would just put it on and just like recite the lines, like that, and the movie Swingers. Yeah, like there was just a bunch of movies in that era where you had Swingers, to know all the lines.
He's all grown up. He's all grown up.
Calm down, House of Pain.
Yeah.
Oh, wait 3 days. Always 3 days.
Yeah, it's always 3 days. Always 3 days. I mean, I think that was the first tipping point, and then the next one was 4, even though 3 was building up to 4.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think 3 is obviously sort of an unsung hero because
it had the best action, to my opinion.
It had the best action. I mean, Reese Millen driving the car up when we recreated that in a film that I did with Chris Forsberg back in the day. But like driving up that section, the Hawthorne Mall, right?
With the
that was just really cool and like really stood out. And I think that film was probably ahead of its time because drifting was still very new.
It was, I mean, in Japan, it was 1 or 2 years old. Yeah. In the US, it was literally just starting. This is 03, right? Yeah. Before I think Formula D officially became a series in 04.
Yeah.
That particular scene inspired me to create a show that I sold to MTV that never got made.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was called Drift or Die.
Ooh, that's a good name.
And it was going to be on MTV2. It was going to be shot in parking lots where people would build drift cars and compete against each other.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. You should bring that back. I think you can make that show today.
Probably, huh? Yeah.
And Skate or Die was like one of my favorite video games as a kid.
Well, that's where it came from, you know. And I think both of us were into different cultures, and skate culture was such a big part of a precursor to import car culture, right? And it kind of bobs
you're
and
a big
weaves.
sneakerhead too, right?
I am, yeah. One of my first jobs was at Foot Locker.
Oh, really?
Saving up, earning money to buy parts for a car I didn't have, which I talk about a lot in other podcasts. But I fell in love with sneakers. I was a big basketball fan, being an immigrant in the 80s and watching the Lakers and the Celtics go at it, and was around watching Jordan become Jordan. Jumping from the free throw line, Jordan 3s, that whole craze of sneaker culture, like really getting going, and all the Air Forces and then the dunk stuff. So Yeah, for me, it's kind of intertwined. There's a thing about customizing and personalizing your vehicle in the same way like you wear like sneakers to like
Yeah.
show your personality, or the car is also like an extension of your personality.
One of the things we always said in New York City is because so few people have cars, sneaker culture was so big in New York, and just fashion was big,
Sure.
right? Like I joke with people now, like I wear t-shirts and jeans and whatever.
Yeah.
When I was in New York and living there, like I paid a lot more attention to what I
Yeah.
was wearing because like people don't see your house. You live in an apartment. People don't see your car.
Sure.
So like the one thing you have to modify is
Yourself.
the way you look,
Yeah.
right? So all of that stuff became really important.
But there was a culture behind it, and I think that's the connection point. There's a culture behind car culture where people get together and there's this joint passion for something, and streetwear, even before it was streetwear culture, skate culture had the same. Because I was traveling to New York, I was traveling to Japan, buying all the vape stuff, and this is pre-Supreme, but going to New York and finding some of the brands that were in Soho or wherever. But I think what drew all of us to sneaker culture or skate culture or car culture was that you found other members of your tribe.
Yeah.
Right. And you connected with them because there was this joint passion. So as a car enthusiast and even a sneaker enthusiast, I would travel the world. And if I met someone, even if they didn't speak the same language and it was very limited, if I knew they were into cars and or sneakers and or whatever, we would get along really well.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of your way to be part of the tribe.
Is this why you and Mark Arcenal were friends?
Yeah. And I met Mark, I think even before Illust. He was still working at Nike. And it was a small world. I think, within import car culture, there's a smaller group of Asian culture that you inevitably would meet somebody. Jim Law, I went to college with, Mike Munar, Mark Arcenal, all these guys that have, done things, Ken Miyoshi, the guy that did Gymkhana, Ken Takahashi, right? And even the guys that do Top Rank now were the Motor X guys back then. So like it was just a small world, and like you would inevitably like cross paths,
I remember when I first found Fatlace, right? It was like early when it was the blog.
Sure.
I remember thinking like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like this feels, and I was at that point, I was already working in the print industry, but it was this perfect intersection of culture, all the things I liked about, skate, sneaker culture, fashion stuff, graffiti, and car culture. And I had never seen that before. And so Mark was this person who, when I eventually met, a year or two later, I feel like we instantly bonded for that same reason, because it was like we didn't actually just have to talk about cars. Like we liked the same kind of music. Like we were both into hip hop. We were both into like breakdance. We were both like all these things just kind of like overlapped. And actually the thing we shared least in common were cars, because I was on the Euro side of things and he was more on the Japanese side.
And Mark's one of those great examples of a little earlier.
Oh yeah.
Illists being, and Fatlace being really some of the first brands that were bridging, car culture and fashion, right? Where it didn't really get into Zoomies or any of those things up until you guys kind of opened that door.
And I've been trying to get Mark on the show for a while. He's just he's like always just traveling, doing baseball stuff with his kid.
Knowing Mark too, he's like, yeah. You're like, when can we do this? He's like, well, 3 months from now, 6 months from now.
Exactly.
Love you, Mark. Love you, Mark.
Yeah, no, Mark's great. And Mark was actually, I've never had because, without question, they were our competitor when we launched Hoonigan.
Okay.
But I've never had such a friendly competitor.
Yeah.
Because I would be able to call Mark and say, hey, man, I don't know how to do this.
Sure.
And he'd be like, oh, let me hook you up with my guy. Or let me do this.
That's very Mark too, right? Let me hook you up with my guy.
Mark's got a guy for everything, right? And obviously we launched Hoonigan side by side with Illust, because we launched Hoonigan through the RWB project, right, in 2011. And that was the official launch for the brand. And at first I thought, this is kind of weird. Like we're launching alongside someone else who's very similar with what it was. But it was a really good friendship in the early days. We'd go to like Agenda together, and we'd be the only two car brands at Agenda. And then eventually we went to Zoomies first, and Mark, called me and was like, hey, what should I know about Zoomies? And I was like, it was a nice relationship to have with someone where we were competitive, but we both wanted each other to succeed. And then oddly, at the end, he ended up working at Hoonigan. Then I left. He stayed at Hoonigan.
Yeah.
So funny how the world spins like that. Yeah. So
I think that's a great sign of one of the things that powers the industry is this collaboration culture.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it now. One of the things I love about mostly the aftermarket is people do want to see each other succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Many times, not always. There's people that hate each other for sure. But there's also a lot of people that are willing to help each other. I think the drift scene is a great example of that in early days of drifting. I think even now, like lots of people that would compete against each other if something broke and they didn't have it. It's like, hey, take my axle. Because I don't feel good winning if you're not on the line and I didn't beat you. Right? And import drag racing was the same, even though there was this really intense rivalry between all the crews, Cyber and Redline, Precision Power, and everyone that was in it. They still wanted to see they still wanted to line up next to their rival and beat them like heads up, and not because like some part broke. And so I love that about our industry. This idea that you want to contribute and help watch others grow, even if you're not growing. For me, it's like my biggest feels like my passion point, my calling, my purpose, whatever you want to call it. But,
Question for you: when you when looking back at it now, right? And I realized it was all a blur when it was happening, but you've got 3 decades of retrospect to look at it. What do you think it was about what you were doing at the time that opened up this world for you? Right? That got the guys at Super Street to take notice, got these other brands to take notice. And I'm talking before Fast, because after Fast it makes sense.
Sure.
But before that, what do you think it was that you were doing that got you to do that?
I think what most people gravitated to is just the enthusiasm that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And my desire to connect people. Like, oh, you're doing this? You should meet this person. Like, let me be a bridge to that. And I was just a young kid that wanted more people to be involved, because in my eyes, the more people got involved, the more corporations got involved, the more credibility the space had.
Mm-hmm.
Because I came, being an immigrant to the US, a lot of what you did was just fight to have credibility. You were fighting to be seen because you were a minority.
Yeah.
And import car culture was the minority within the larger car culture world. And driving a Honda, anything front wheel drive, Euro or Honda, you got looked at like, that's not hot rodding.
Yeah.
And we didn't see it as that. We didn't want it to be called hot rodding.
Yeah.
We were modifying our cars, right? And we were personalizing it. And so I threw so much energy not knowing it, just because I wanted it to succeed. The import show-off guys, I had a booth at the first one. I met Ken and I was like, let me help. I know some guys at Honda. Let me introduce those guys because they need to see what you're doing. I met Rodney, who did TMR, Toy Machine Racing.
Love Rodney.
Right? Hey, you got great design skills. He was at Image Dynamics at the time. I've got a buddy who's throwing car shows who could use your talent.
Yeah.
So we would sit in his office till 2 a.m. designing import show-off flyers, because it took 2 hours to save the file because it was 50 layers and it was Apple II or whatever.
The Apple II.
Yeah, and even when I met the Super Street guys, they're like, tell us about, what you guys are doing and why these cars look so different from the Euro lowriders. Oh, let me introduce you to, you guys got to go to Battle of the Imports. Have you heard of Tokyo Auto Salon? You need to be there. So I was such a sponge. John Sabala and I talk about this all the time. We're both sponges and we love just absorbing. But unlike John, I was also a big, let me share what I've learned.
Yeah.
And not in the content creator space, because we didn't have any of that. It was just person to person. So I was taking meetings, I was taking people out to lunch, as much as I could. Anybody that was willing to listen, I was going to go on a tangent on how great this movement was, how you needed to be involved, whether you were someone doing a car show, whether you were making a product, whether you were a brand trying to do something, whether you were creating media, whether it was a print mag and TMR to Super Street to 360 video or grip video. I was all day, every day. And I think that's what people were like, oh man, this kid's serious. He's in it. We should just do something with him. Let's partner with him. Let's see what we could do together, or who he knows that he can connect us to. And I didn't have this thing where I need to I need to like profit from someone else. I just wanted to bridge people. And like, oh, you guys are doing that? Awesome. I'm on to the next thing. Of course, there's things that I worked on for myself personally that I would try to like wedge in if it made sense. But if it didn't, I didn't care.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's what drew people.
It's interesting as I think about it now from my, my perspective or my POV as this like kid in New York City who ran a Volkswagen car club and was throwing small events and doing all that, not in the industry. I was so aware of who you were because I read Super Street, right? And even though I didn't have a Honda, it wasn't into that. I still saw that as a more adjacent market to what I was into because those were the people that I was around in New York City. Like if we were going out and cruising DPA or Francis Lewis Boulevard or something like that, or going to the street races, we were mingling with like all the Japanese car. We weren't talking to the hot rod dudes. Like they weren't having us, right? So that was that group. And I had friends who had, DSM cars that ran 9 seconds and things like that in that era. You were someone who was easy to root for. Like I remember being excited for you when you were in fast, not hating on you. And I don't know and I think it's just like, it was really probably the way Super Street presented you because realize it's not like today. It's not like I'm following you on Instagram and I have a parasocial relationship. It's like I see you maybe once every 2 months. I see some of the builds you do. I read some of the stuff you write about. I think Super Street was one of the first magazines other than Max Power that took the editorial staff
and put them in it.
And put them in it. And in a way, that actually set the standard for what we did at Hoonigan.
Sure. Oh, it did.
Because think about it, at Hoonigan,
always about the characters.
It was the eventually, in the beginning, it was about the drivers, but eventually it became about Hurt and Vinny and Zach and all these guys.
I'd not put that parallel together.
Yeah, and I don't think I did at the time, but when I look back at it, it's what I loved about Super Street because I felt like I knew you guys. Like I felt like I knew Nads. I felt like I knew you, right? Like I didn't actually feel like I knew Richard Cheng because I think he was very much in the background.
He was a little bit more in the background.
I met him, but the guys who were in the front and doing stuff, like, that was, and you were very much front and center. And I think that you, like I said, you were someone that like people wanted to root for. And so, and that kind of goes back to like the OG influencer, because in many ways that is what influence is. Like you want them to do well, right? If you talk to TJ, you talk to Amelia, you talk to Cletus, like whoever it is in the space, their audience wants them to win, right? And that was it. So here's one for you. You are 18 again, but it is 2026.
Wow.
How do you navigate now? Like how does RJ de Vera build the world today? Like what would you do? Would you know?
It's so different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so different, but the foundations are the same because I would just use the platforms of today and just do what I did back then. I think in terms of potential, it's so much greater today, so much more difficult because there's so much noise and content everywhere. But if you can, start to stand out and have your own point of view that people support, the world is your oyster as a term is like the world is your oyster. In my day, it was like North America was my oyster. Right. And really it started as LA was my oyster and then North America. And it somewhat got global, but nowhere near the reach that you could have now. So I think me in 2026 would take the same foundational approach, but then use the platforms of today. Yeah. And I think the potential would be so much greater.
And I think one of the really unique things about today versus where both you and I were was regionally, like geographics was such an important part of your success. If you didn't live here, you wouldn't have met the people you met, and you wouldn't have done the thing you've done. Where you've got guys like, Weston Champlin, who's in the middle of the country and has built an entire thing around himself because of the non-gatekeeping aspect of YouTube.
It's just so much more free and open.
Yeah.
And, content's everywhere. There isn't these. You talked about how, like, if you were in the magazine world, you had to know the magazine mafia, right?
Yeah.
To get on the newsstand. And it was something that got talked about at Peterson when I was there, on how they had to buy circulation and how you have to buy to get on the newsstand. And it's just such a different world. But, I'm going to come back to this idea of like making content about the people. I think it's an age-old story that we just implemented at Super Street, and kudos to Matt Pearson, because there were no enthusiast books that really featured the individuals. And Matt was pretty much a pioneer in that space of like, no, we're going to talk about the different editors, what you drive, the stupid things that we do. And then it just got carried on. And of course, Nads took it to another level when he took over after Rich. But it's, as you say that and you said that, like, yeah, I mean, I think most people are drawn to the people and the story more than the content or the build or any of that. I mean, of course, that's a piece of it, but when you become larger, that's what keeps people around. Because you can have like one build and then get forgotten about, and then that's it, right? But if the people love who you are and they're rooting for you, they're going to continue to tune in whatever you're doing. So,
no, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of tuning in, we're going to tune out quick for a quick little break. I'll come right back. Be honest, we all do it. You fire up an incognito tab and you hit up the configurator page of your favorite automaker to build out that dream spec you're never going to buy. Good news, Heatwave Visual also offers an online customizer. A little bit easier on the pocketbook than a paint-to-sample GT3 RS. First, you choose your frame style, and then you pick out the colors, the lenses. Do you want them polarized? And on top of that, they have over 40 different arm designs to choose from, even down to the emblem. Look, I'm not saying they don't have great off-the-shelf sunglasses. They do. But if you're like me and you've got that itch to mod everything, head on over to heatwavevisual.com. 20 years back, I stumbled on this really unique tool. It'd be a disservice to call it simply a ratchet. It's got a self-adjusting head. You can use it like a screwdriver. But if you have ADHD like me, it also makes for a great fidget spinner. It's called the Zyklop, made by Wera tools. If you haven't heard of them, they make premium tools that are highly over-engineered. Hardly surprising, they're German. But it's not just the quality and the engineering, it's the evolution. I mean, these guys actually reinvented the wrench. We connected after they saw me working on my Audi with their tools. Once again, I only work with brands whose stuff I actually use. So check them out, weratools.com. And I apologize now because you're likely going to empty your bank account there. All anyone wants to talk about nowadays is how great 90s car culture was. But what everyone forgets is how bad our slammed cars rode on crappy lowering springs. At the time, that's all my wallet could muster. But when I finally did step up and get some proper coilovers, I went for KWs and never looked back. I've been running their stuff for over 2 decades now, in everything from my 911 to my RS2. I even have a custom set in my Land Rover Discovery. And yes, that bloody thing does finally run. Anyway, check them out, kwsuspensions.com. What'd you drive here today?
My Alpina.
Ooh.
Yeah, I have a B6 Alpina. I had an Accord that was my daily, like right before pandemic.
Like a new Accord? Or
it was
like
a new Accord. It was like a 2-liter, but
okay.
I got into Euros, and you get into Euros, you get used to the luxury, right?
You've had a lot of BMWs, you had a couple 911s, right?
Not too many. I mean, I do this thing where I build cars with friends, so they were never personally mine, but I get the keys to them and I drive them a lot. So, but I've jumped all over the map, all sorts of Japanese cars. I think my first Euro was a CLS Mercedes that I slammed with all the Brabus rocket parts, which was, I just loved. The Platinum Motorsports guys built that one. And then I went
when was that, like
2006? Yeah. I built a couple E46 M3s for some people that looked like the CSL with the active AutoWorks supercharger and all that stuff. But the CLS was my first personal Euro car. And then I kind of fell into, like, I had a F01 BMW short wheelbase 7 Series that I slammed. Then I had a Maserati GTMC that I loved, one of the best sounding cars ever. Big and heavy though, not the funnest to drive. And then I had my SLS,
I remember
the Gullwing.
Yep.
And then at some point, when I got the SLS, I was like, okay, I can't drive this every day because everything else I drove every day.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, my mom had a Jetta wagon, so I drove that for a while. And then I had an Audi A6. And I just kept telling people, like, this stuff doesn't matter. But I felt like I wasn't living that. Right. So I was like, oh, this stuff doesn't matter. It's stuff. And it's a way that I try to keep myself grounded because I love too many things. Like I'm sure you and many people in this space, or you just collect too many things and you have too many things you don't need. And so I was like, I'm gonna when the Audi lease was over, I'm like, I'm gonna get something like real practical. And my friends were like, BS, you can't do that. You can't go back. I'm like, what's wrong with a new Honda? I came from Hondas. And they're like, can't see it. So I was like, nah, screw this. So I bought an Accord and I drove that for 6 or 7 years. And then my nephew, my
That is
oldest
such
nephew,
a transition from the SLS. Because I remember when you had that, I was like, flashy.
yeah,
RJ.
yeah. Well, I love Gull Wings. Like 55
course, who
Gull Wing is like,
doesn't?
and it was definitely like very theatrical.
Oh,
Like, you
yeah.
pop the door open, and one of a great story. I buy the car. I had sold everything. It's the only car that I had. I thought I would drive it daily, which was crazy. So I went to Target at 10 p.m. at night, like in Irvine, where I live. And I remember parking close to the entrance because there's nobody there. So I popped the door open, and there's this couple walking in, and they look over, and it's not the nod of like, cool car. It's like, okay, douchebag. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I can't drive this car every day. And it was before the suspension. It was just like you got either the normal or track suspension, and the guy that bought it before me had the track suspension. It was super stiff. So then I got into having a daily next to whatever the collector car was. And then at some point I was like, I wanted to call myself out on my own BS. Like, can you drive something that's just normal and plain? Which I got the Accord. And then my oldest nephew needed a new car, so I sold it to my brother for cheap. And I started looking for a new daily. I was like, it'd be nice to get something like more luxury again, because it was like 6 years in, right? And it just progressively got worse. And I don't know, like people are like, oh, daily, Alpina, all right, like gonna get something like not so crazy. And I'm like, well, I ran into this car at 6 years old. It had 4,800 miles. How do you pass that up?
No, it's a good deal.
How do you pass? And it tanked in value because it's an Alpina and no one really knows about it unless you're a car fan. So yeah, I love it. It's been great.
Yeah, I see you got TEs on it.
It's which a lot of people either love or hate.
No, I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, TEs kind of work. Vinny and Atra and I talk about this all the time. Like they kind of work on everything.
But being that it's an Alpina and everyone knows the Alpina wheels, which I love as well. But this one has like the chestnut brown interior, and to me like bronze and green. Just like I'm like, I gotta buy it. And the Supra being a 5-on-120, and Volk Racing making a bunch of stuff for the Supra, you just try to match the right size and offset, because for a long time they didn't make T's in 20s.
Yeah.
And this car came with 20s, and it looks right on 20s. So
for a long time, it was really hard to get TEs in anything out of the traditional size, like Japanese sizing.
Yeah, 4x1143.
The first couple of cars, Gymkhana cars that Ken had, I put TEs on
it. Yeah.
And I remember working with Eddie on it and just trying to be like, hey, what can we find?
Sure.
Like, what do you have? Okay, we got to re-drill them because it was like 5x112 and all this weird stuff. Yeah.
And I love green. What about you? Like, what's you have like 12 cars right now or something?
Well, that's cute. I think I don't even know where I'm at right now. I think it's like 26 or 28.
Wow. It's double or triple that.
Yeah, but so
why don't you get rid? Because I know I heard Adam Elsie has the same thing where he just doesn't.
No, he has like 100.
Jeez,
so it's insane. And then we had JP Performance on last week or 2 weeks ago, and he said he has like 160 cars or something.
But even 26, like what's the versus like I'm gonna get rid of stuff and get something different? Or
yeah, sure. Well, first to kind of your idea of like I need to have this normal car. I'm actually going into that mode right now. So 2 years ago, I had this like daily kind of commuter car. It was an Audi A1, which is still weird because they don't sell them here in the US. But it was a regular car, and it was new, and it had Bluetooth and things like that, right? But I found like I just drove it every day, and I didn't drive any of my other cars.
Okay. Because it's easy, right?
Right. It's easy. It's like just outside. Sure. I don't mind parking it anywhere. Like it's just easy.
That was my Accord for sure.
And I would just always go to it, always go to it. And then all of a sudden, like 8 months passed by, and you're like, man, I haven't like barely driven any of my fun cars. Yeah. And I started to realize I was like not enjoying the hobby as much, and it felt more and more like work.
Sure.
And I'm sure you know this.
Yeah.
You work in this business.
Yeah.
Some days are really fun, and some days are just work.
Yeah.
And I was having more and more of the work days. So I sold it, and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm only going to have cool cars.
Okay.
So for the past year and a half, I've only had like quote unquote cool cars or cars I think are cool, which means I don't own anything made after 2002.
Wow.
Which realize like as far as the rules go, that means everything I own is a classic, because 25 years or older is a classic. So I'm in that space. And I mostly drive a car from the 70s. So I drive my yellow Rabbit, my green Rabbit all the time. And then I've got like a 90s RS2 that I drive. And with a 6-year-old, sometimes you realize like this is a very irresponsible decision.
Sure.
Because like cars break and you have to like get your kid somewhere,
Sure.
or you're supposed to pick your kid up from school, and like, you know, your Brembo brake has decided to separate itself from the carrier, right? And you're on the side of the road. Like
Waiting for
I've
AAA.
had AAA literally investigated me last year because I had too many tows.
Oh wow! And you have the highest membership. I'm
yeah,
sure.
and I have, of course, I've got like the premium, whatever, and it's like, no, it's like I'm not defrauding you. I just have a lot of cars that are all unreliable.
Right.
So I actually just recently, I just paid for it yesterday. I picked up a D4 Audi S8.
Oh wow!
That's just like a stock, but like it was super low miles. So it's a 2013, but it only had 29,000 miles on it, and it was a really good price.
That's a new car for you,
and that's going to be like my newest car right now. Yeah, I have a problem with new cars. I don't like I don't like the big screens. I don't like a lot of the new technology.
I'm kind of in the same.
Yeah, so like to me, I feel like the cutoff of like,
what's your cutoff? Yeah,
for like an enthusiast car, it seems to be like 2006, 2008.
What? And
like probably when they made the last Evo 9
Okay.
is kind of a good cutoff for me.
and then for the new cars, 2013.
And then I say for like a newer car where I don't feel like it's got too many bells and whistles, like just the right amount, is probably like 2015 or something like that. Like for example, I like adaptive cruise control, but I don't like a car that steers me back into the lane, right? Like there's a certain level where
that interference.
It went past my Overton window of technology.
I feel like 2019 for me is that sweet spot because a lot of stuff after 19 went to digital gauges, and that's one of my like the B6 versus the B8 Alpina. The B6 still has
that's huge
regular gauges that are blue, which is super rad, right? But then you get in the B8, which is the kind of the next generation after, it's all digital. And granted, Alpina modified it so the tack is blue digitally, but it's not the same feeling.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And then all the ADAS stuff too.
Explain to the audience all the ADAS stuff, because that is something that's coming into.
I forget what the acronym is. Advanced Dynamics something systems, adaptive systems or something. But it's basically all the stuff that controls if there's a car in front of you and it brakes for safety or lane departure or any of these sensors that keep you safe. Mm-hmm. That's all the ADAS systems. And you watch all these reviews where everyone gets in a sports car and they're like, I got to turn everything off every time I fire it up. Yep. And that's just part of, regulation.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like 2019 was about the end before all of those things just started to be integrated, even before the regulation of like, it's a safety standard. We're going to put it in. Like the Alpina has the one where it kind of shakes if you hit this edge of the lane, you can turn it off. But the new cars, like everything's on, and you got to turn it off one by one, and it's in a menu, and
they get really aggressive.
Yeah, they get really aggressive. Where like if you're on cruise control, it'll completely slow you down, or whatever the case may be. So a lot of the ADAS systems are those sensors that keep you safe, but also if you want to turn them off, it's a chore because you have to do it every time you fire. It's not like you change the setting and it stays. I think 2019 was kind of that last year where you can turn things off and it will just remember that. And some manufacturers are later, like, Aston Martin owner, mine's a 23, and I think in 25 that started. So I have the kind of the last generation, like a 2019 in the BMW world before all of that became the norm. Yeah. So to me, that's kind of like a sweet spot. You still get the map, your iPhone still connects with it, but you're not having to turn all these systems off. And and it's not, if you think about it, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
but it's a pain in the ass.
It's funny though. I am so analog in the cars that I drive that I'll fly somewhere and rent a car and get into like the most basic rental car, it Hertz or whatever, and be like, what is all these gadgets?
Yes.
Like, what is all of this doing? Yeah. Because now I'm not a journalist anymore. I don't drive as many new cars, and sometimes I'll just get into a new car and I'm like, this is too much. Like, there's just too much going on. Recently, a few months back, I did a film with Boston Legacy Football Club, and we had Leah Block driving a Hyundai Ioniq 5N. Okay. Which, like, as far as EVs go, I really think the thing's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've sat in one.
But we mounted a camera to it, so we mounted a moto crane camera arm to it, and the whole day we were having problems with it.
Right.
And then eventually we realized it was because
There was a
all the
sensor.
sensors thought we were getting into a car crash constantly. Because it
Yeah.
kept seeing this thing, which was the camera, moving around the car. Because the whole conceit was like, we're going to put Leah in the camera car and have her drive the camera car and drift the camera car as it was filming. And we just struggled the whole day. And eventually I called one of the guys, one of the engineers over at Hyundai. And he's like, oh, maybe it's this. And sure enough, like we turned all that off and the thing finally worked. I was like, oh, yeah. Because it just, every time the camera would move, it'd be like, you're going to get into a car crash. And just shut the car
shut it down. Yeah. Everything like limp mode.
Yeah. So, but do you have any project cars or like, are you?
The last major project car, so I got burnt out like most people do with that stuff, was when I joined SEMA, I didn't have anything. I just had my Accord, which was lowered on wheels. But I'm like, how can I join SEMA and not have a project car? So I ended up wanted something analog, really wanted something Honda because that's my roots. Started looking.
Well, really, you're like an Integra guy, right? That's kind of
first car was Integra. So looked for an Integra Type R DC2 because it's one of the cars that I'd never really owned, and I really loved the Japanese front end.
Of course, it's one of the best.
It's one of the best, and so I started looking for one. Talked to the guys at Top Ranked, and it felt really expensive for what it was.
What are they going for these days?
At that time, there was in the 30s and 40s, and then I wanted to make mine's California compliant, which is another 10K, like 8 to 10K. And so it was like 50 grand for this car that wasn't super clean, that I needed to like do some restoration on. Champ white, always, you know. And then I was like, one of the cars that I really loved, because I had an NSX for 12 years, was the NSX, but even more so was the S2000 that was in Fast and Furious. And I only had that for 18 months because we sold it to them, right? For it to become the pink car in the movie. But I really enjoyed that car. I didn't think I was a convertible guy until I had that car. I thought Honda transmissions were good, but then I got in. When I had the S2000s, like this is one of the best transmissions ever. And so I just remembered that, and so I started looking in the market and found one for like 30K. And so that was my project for a while. I knew Kenji and the boys were developing a version 2 of their turbo kit that was going through CARB compliance. We were at SEMA, we were actually doing a lot of the emissions testing for it. So I knew that was coming down the pike, and I was like, ooh, a turbocharged S2000 that's CARB legal, like that's going to be it. So
as you approach 50, that is like super cool.
It's super important, right? And working for SEMA too, like you got to do it above board. So I did that, but I made it a tribute build. A car came to me through a friend, like, hey, there's guys selling one. I'm like, what color? Black with red. I'm like, oh, serendipitous. My first one that I had that was Johnny Tran's car was black with red. So my thought was, if fast. It's kind of like your question to me, like me in 2020, was this at that time 2023 or 2022, somewhere around there. Like, how would I build this car if Fast 1 was just coming out with modern day parts, right? And stuff that I could get now. So that car is because a couple of people that have built recreations for fast cars were like, they found out I was getting the S2000. They were like super excited. Which version are you going to build? Johnny's version or Suki's version? I'm like, neither. Like, why would I want to build one of those? Like, that was my car back then. Like, I want to build the new version, the RJ version for now. So, there was a 20th anniversary bumper that launched I think 2021 or 2022 that made the car look like a modern S2000. And I saw the Evasive's S2000R. Are you familiar with this car? Such an amazing concept. And so that inspired me to be like, oh, I'm going to, use that as inspiration and create my version of that. So that's the last project car. Mugen, wheels and roof and turbocharged and Brembos and all the things that we do.
The S2000 is one of the few cars that
you don't fit in that
makes me wish I was shorter.
Yeah.
I went to one of the Honda press events for the S2000, got there and didn't fit and couldn't drive the car.
Wow.
That's it literally, like, even with the top down, like it put the top of the windshield right in my eye line. Wow. And just did not fit. And it was like a track event, like the helmet's sticking out the top. And I was like, this doesn't work.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the Hondas don't work for you. A lot of the JDM cars.
It's one of the reasons why I like Euro cars is because I just fit in them. Everyone thinks I don't like JDM or Japanese cars. It's like, no, I just don't. That's why I like Evos, because I fit in an Evo.
So the
So, and
S2000's
Subarus and
my
stuff like that.
my analog car,
Yeah.
and then I bought the replacement for the SLS.
So
Which,
do you still have that now?
yeah,
Okay,
I
cool.
co-own it with someone. I love co-owning.
You love the
things.
co-own, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then I don't spend as much. I drive the car like once a month,
Right.
maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
And the guy, really close friend of mine, was looking at one and wanted to track it. I'm like, let's just build a weekend warrior cars and coffee track car.
Yeah.
So the challenge is we're on club sports. So you can imagine how stiff. And Chris at KW put street springs in it. It's still a club sport
Yeah,
shock.
yeah.
It's still stiff as hell.
still-
I feel
it's
like
hard.
I'm going to lose my kidney every time I drive it. But I still have that car. Super enjoy it. I'd love to do another analog car. I put into TJ's ear that we should do a collab car, like a new school, old school build.
That's a good one.
And he's like, "You're not serious." And I kind of wasn't, but I kind of am. So
What would you build?
S15.
Yeah.
Would love an S15. I think that car could launch now, new, and it'd still be good. You know?
Yeah. It'd probably be better than the last thing Nissan launched.
Yeah, yeah. And I just I need to get back in his ear. He's like, RJ, when you're serious, text me. I'm like, let me pay off some cars first. But I did replace the SLS. So my European collector car is an Aston Martin Vantage F1.
Oh, nice.
Which is this last before all the ADAS stuff
Yep,
and the
yep.
new interior. And a lot of people complain because it's the old Mercedes stuff, but to me it's perfect because my iPhone works and you still use the little ball or not
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the trackpad, but the little circular thing. So I love that car. It's green. I'm super into
That's a good
green
color.
cars right now. The Aston green is like chef's kiss, you know. And the F1 is one of those.
They kind of own the green.
They own the green.
Like the British
Yeah,
do.
they own, yeah.
They do British racing green very well.
When I was looking to replace the SLS, I really got in this zone to get an F car, and I almost got an F12 because I still want a V12 Ferrari someday. But I also really wanted a green car, and you're not going to find an F car in green. It's like so
Yeah.
rare, and even if you did, it's astronomically expensive. And so I started looking at all the British cars like Jaguar, Bentley, Aston, and Aston's one of those brands where like everyone loves it, but nobody buys it.
I know. TJ and I talked about this.
Yeah, and he got the new V8,
Yeah.
his last generation V8 Vantage, and I love quirky things. I had the SLS because it was quirky.
Yeah.
It wasn't the 911. It wasn't, And so the Aston kind of just spoke to me that way, and I didn't think it would drive as well as it does, especially the F1 edition.
Yeah.
Which is basically like their S version for that generation. They didn't make any S versions. Everything was like an AMR or something Ultimate 770 Ultimate. So the Vantage was just called an F1 edition because they had the safety car. And I remember being so shocked at how good the car drove. And I talked to a lot of journalists like Bassam or Johnny Lieberman. They're like, "Oh, you have an F1? That's a good car." It's like a nod.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh shit, I didn't even know this." So I love that car too, and I'm hoping that one doesn't leave the stable. And I don't ever want to get to 26 cars, but the S15 would be one, and then I want a shooting brake of some sort. Are you a fan of? Well, you're a hatch fan.
I
so-
love hatches. Yeah. I mean, the shooting brake is just an adult hatchback, right?
Bigger,
Yeah.
right? Usually bigger.
Yeah.
So if you were to get a shooting brake, what would be the shooting brake car that you want? Or the funky clown car? Are you a clown car fan?
Yeah, I am.
Z3 or Z4?
I like them both. We did a episode here. We argued like greatest drivers era cars before 2010, and I made a strong thing.
Z4?
The M Coupe C4.
Yeah. Because it had all the CSL stuff.
Was so
on it.
good.
Yeah.
Was such a good car.
I still look at on Car Gurus all the time for.
It's still they're not. You don't find them around a lot now because I mentioned on the pod. People send them to me all the time.
Sure.
So, and I'm not a BMW guy, but
I heard
that's
that.
the one I would.
Yeah.
That I would buy that. I also really like E39 M5s. Obviously
Okay.
E30s. I really like his 8 series, like the old 8 series. I think that's just the hip hop in me.
Yes.
Like it just seems like the kind of car
who
like
was the
I think Nas
baseball
had
player?
one,
Yeah.
JLL had one.
Daryl Strawberry that had a real famous
I'm
8
sure.
series.
Yeah,
It was like Candy Apple and
Yeah.
stuff.
And I mean, as a kid from Queens, you gotta love that. So
Is there an Audi that you don't have that you would love to have? Because I know you're a big Audi guy. That's
yeah,
your number one,
I
right?
like the B7 RS4,
Okay.
which was like the 2007 2008 RS4. We got them as a sedan here. I prefer the Avant. I like RS4, the B5 RS4.
B5 RS4.
Vinny just picked one up.
Sure.
And he keeps joking he's going to sell it to me, but I already have an RS2.
Okay.
I don't know. There's a part of me that sometimes wants an R8.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Which one?
the V10 gated would be the move.
Generation 1.
Yeah, but
I love Generation 1.
yeah, but I would actually really take any if there was the right price on a gated V8, I would do it. But the V10 it just sings. It sounds cool.
Well, it's the Lambo
I'll
motor.
tell you why though, because I think I would drive it more. It feels more like a daily driver than like this 360 does.
Yes.
And I've driven, I was a journalist in that era. The Gallardo and that side by side, even though it's the same car in essentially, there's something about the Audi that like you could like park it at Whole Foods. Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's I guess it's the same thing that happened to you that night in Target. Mm-hmm. It doesn't yell douchebag as much as other supercars, but it's like a supercar in sensible shoes or something because it's still an Audi. I don't know.
Lamborghini is one. I was a partner in a business. We bought the Gallardo. They make great cars. Yeah. But a lot of enthusiasts don't get it because it comes with this baggage.
Yeah, right? For sure. It's a stigma.
Yeah, and you're like, they make such a great car.
Yeah.
You know, would you agree that the first gen R8 is basically the NSX redone? Like that was my, because I was an NSX owner for 12 years, and I was always waiting for them to come out with a new one. And they had the HSC concept, and then the HSV.
You're saying first gen V8
for me would have been what the NSX should have been when Honda Acura was looking to launch the new NSX before the twin turbo hybrid one. Yes. They had all these concepts, HSC concept, HSV. They even raced it in JGTC, the HSV concept. And they talked about a V8, a V10 because they were in F1. And then the R8 came out and I was like, that's the new Gen NSX.
I never thought about that, but that's an interesting take. And I don't disagree with. I went to the international launch, which they did like outside of Phoenix for the R8 when it came out. And so I was one of the first people in the world. I was literally the first people in the world to drive it. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is really good because I had driven Ferraris, I had driven Lambos, and they all had like a little bit of like, oh, just look past this part. Look past this one thing that's like the fit and finish isn't good on. But because it was Audi and Audi was killing fit and finish in that era, that it just like you got in, you're like the shifter, like everything just felt right. The placement, and as someone who's 6'8", like I fit well in it because it was built for Germans and it looked really cool.
Yeah, it looked really good.
It was a good design error for them. So,
if you had to sell all your cars, all 26, and keep one or buy one, what would that one car be?
This has come up a couple times, and I answer it different every time because I think it depends on the day. So for me, like the most important car to me in my own collection of cars is my 911. Okay, right. I just love that car. Whenever I get in it, even just getting in it to move it out of a garage for us to film this, like I get excited by it. Like I just like it. That being said, it's not a car I could live with every day.
Okay, we'll give you a daily.
Oh, if I get a daily, then it's like I'd probably that, or
is there something?
Or I really do enjoy my RS2.
Okay. Is there something unattainable like that's crazy? Like
I'm not like, of course, like everybody, like I love things like an F1 or like
McLaren F1's top.
Yeah, or like an F40 or things like that. But I don't know. I kind of dream a little bit lower. Like I like simpler stuff. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. Like I've thought about like if I could only. I have a friend, Justin Osmer. I don't know. Do you know Justin at Forza? Yeah. And like he has an RS6, and I spoke badly about the RS6 on the pod, and he was like, "Oh, I can't believe you did that." And I was like, if I had to only own one car, that'd probably be it because it checks a lot of boxes. It's a great dad mobile. It's still fast. It looks cool. Like it's.
What was your comment on you feel like it's overdone? Because I just listened to that on Drive Up.
I felt like it was. I felt like the RS6 breaks what I like about Audi because I think Audi's about subtlety, and that thing is not subtle.
It's not subtle. It is not subtle. I would take the RS6 over the M5 wagon, hands down. Yeah. The new M5 wagon's too big. It's too heavy. That to me is like. Yeah. But I'm very excited about. Did you see the Alpina concept that just got launched? BMW design language. I know you're not a BMW guy. Lately hasn't been the greatest. Yeah.
The big nostrils and everything.
And I'm still like.
Also, the new door handles bother me. I'm a big door handle guy.
What's your favorite door handle of all time? Then?
An Audi door handle, the classic recessed where
Sure.
like all it is the pull out. Like I
yeah.
like pull out handles
Okay.
more than like
Okay.
the latch.
Yeah,
The
the
latch.
door
Like I like the
handle.
lever style
Okay.
door handle. I think
Is there a specific door handle?
That door handle on the RS2 is,
Really?
I mean, so much so that, and I don't know if you know this, but in the Volkswagen community, we used to cut those door handles
Yeah.
off of Audis and put them on Volkswagens.
we
because
did.
it's like such a clean
look.
looking door handle. Yeah. There's just like, for example, I love FD RX-7s because I love the way that they integrate
Yeah.
the door handle into the top of
You
the
can't
door.
even tell. Yeah.
It's just super clean.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, even though I've owned them, like GD STIs
Okay.
or WRXs, I hate the door handle. Like the door handle feels like an afterthought.
Sure.
Like they designed
Super
the car
functional.
and then they were like, I don't know, can we order a door handle from somewhere else? I also
Just stick it on.
It also bothers me about like Corvettes because like the Corvette door handle on like
Sure.
the C5 is the same door handle from like the Lumina because it's like a part
yeah.
spin door handle.
Yeah.
But I think the new door handles
Yeah.
on the new BMWs are just like one will drive by and I'll just stare at the door handle like why what is that? So I don't know.
I am a fan. Aston's kept the same door handle for such a long time now, but it's you know it's got the 3 bars on it and now it kind of flips out and meets you, but before you would kind of it
Push
kind
it,
of was
no, it was good.
kind of hidden. It was really
It was
good.
a really good door handle.
Yeah, I mean I'm not surprised they've not changed it.
I think I
because
read
it's
somewhere that you said you originally wanted to be a car designer.
originally,
but you couldn't draw.
I can't draw to save my life. Like I wanted to go to art center so bad. I had friends in art center that I worked with on different projects. My brother was also an artist growing up. He was a great illustrator, and he went to art school I think he went to Otis for a little while. He didn't finish, but I just had this dream because you want to be like your older brother.
Yeah.
The only thing I could sketch was Snoopy. So I have this affinity for like anything Snoopy collab because it reminds me of being like 8.
It's so funny because I was into graffiti as a kid, which a lot of other people who are into graffiti were really, really good at drawing. But I wasn't. I was good at letter work and I like understood typography, but it didn't translate into drawing.
Sure.
And I taught myself to draw Goofy.
Oh,
so to this day, every character I draw is based on
Goofy.
Like the way the eyes meet the nose and the mouth, like everherthing. Like I'll draw for my son and I'm like, he's like, oh, it's not. I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, that's me still stealing Goofy when I was like 10 years old.
Doodled it over 1,000 times. I'm in the same boat.
Similarity there.
So I tried, and I didn't even try.
I just say,
I
as
knew
we
it
get
wasn't
into this
gonna go.
detailed conversation of door handles, that's like a very designer.
That's a very design. I'm a huge fan of design.
Yeah.
Car design, fashion design, sneaker art. I went to Pebble Beach for the first time in 2009 as a guest of Barry Meguiar. And I remember we were like driving down from a wedding in San Francisco. We were going to be there for a few hours and drive home. And the SLR Sterling Moss was there, which is like, I never thought I'd see one because it was like 30 in the world.
Yep.
And I remember walking around it and sitting in front of it for like 30 minutes.
Yep.
My friends were like, we got to drive home. Let's go. And I'm like, wait. I don't know if I'm ever going to see this car ever again. And I would sit like next to the side exhaust on the fender and like just absorb the design of it. And I think.
You're saying the original.
No, it was
so you're saying the actual.
The McLaren.
Okay.
Mercedes.
So in the episode, I don't know if you heard this episode where we talked about the don't meet your hero cars, and Matt Farah said that the SLR is one of the worst supercars he's ever driven.
Well, and the SLR to me,
but I get it. But from a design aspect, it was definitely something very unique.
But do you know about the Sterling Moss version?
Yes. Yeah.
That was like the Speedster.
Yeah, it was like the 727, right?
There was the McLaren SLR and then the 722.
That was at the 722.
But then they made one called the Sterling Moss, which their idea was the modern day version of the Sterling Moss race car.
Right.
So it was the SLR without the roof.
Right. So it just had like
the windscreen.
Yep.
And it had a different rear and it was a true speedster.
Yeah.
Like in a modern day. And it had this I love long hooded cars because I'm a big 50s and 60s like European car fan. Like E-Type Jag, 300 SL, any 250 Ferrari, right? Any of that stuff. So that was the one thing about the SLR. As a normal car, it didn't look the greatest because it was too derived from F1. But as the Sterling Moss, it was like, oh yeah. So I sat there forever, and that's kind of my love for design peeking out and the frustration of like, I wish I could design something that cool, which is why I built so many cars, because it was that creative expression for me. Like I would always joke that I was just a glorified parts picker and stylist and not a car builder, because at a certain point I didn't want to, like, I put headers on. I didn't want to like tear the engine down, or like Steph built, like when I blew my Integra up, I went to JG Engine Dynamics, which was a engine build shop at the time, and Steph rebuilt my engine because I know it was on the podcast, but I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to dream up builds and be like, yeah, that's the build.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were like this when you were young. You would like take a chassis or a model and be like, I would do these wheels, this kit.
The paper build.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
And then Forza and everything came out. So now you can build it digitally. But
It's funny because I was never that big of a gamer, but when Gran Turismo, the first one came out, right? I went and I played at a friend's house. I'd never played anything like it before. It was it was revolutionary. Yeah. And I worked in an electronics store at the time because like cell phones were like StarTacs were like all the rage. So I was like slinging StarTacs in Queens at this place called Nobody Beats the Whiz. And I went to work the next day and bought the PlayStation
for that
with that came with Gran Turismo. It was like the package box. And I brought it home, and my girlfriend at the time broke up with me that weekend because I played for like 72 hours straight. Like I wasn't sleeping, and I was playing to modify the cars. Yeah, and I had gotten
what was the car you mentioned? Tommy Kyra.
Yeah. And it's because of like that game. Like there's certain cars that I love because of that game, but I have this love affair with the Mitsubishi 3000 GT because it was in that game, and you could do like
that was the first car,
3 like aero kit. You could do all that stuff, and I would just play and then save it to my card, and then I would like get a bunch of money, and then I would sell it, and I would go buy and then reset the game and go buy another car just to see what you could do, just what you could build it, and like that was so much. Like I didn't even think I cared as much about the racing, as it was like, wow, I get to like imagine. What I want to build and actually see it, because as someone who couldn't draw, I was never able to see what I wanted. And it wasn't until I was working in the magazine world. It's actually funny because it was the first time we had this idea. I reached out to John Seibel and was like, hey, I have this idea. Can you make this?
Oh, yeah.
And this was early days, right? This is before everybody was a render guy. It was like John was like the first person to do it, and someone had mentioned to me like, "Oh, there's this guy John Seibel, and he could do this, he could do that." And
have you had him on the podcast? Not yet.
I haven't actually. He's a really good one to have on, and I like I said, I hired him to do work for me at 0 to 60 back in the day, and like and then obviously like early raw welt stuff, like he was around for that. So he'd be a good one to have on, but and he was a pioneer in that space, and now there's thousands of people who do the same thing, but it's a cool space.
Do you think, we were talking about tipping points earlier with car culture? Maybe you've spoken about it. I feel like Gran Turismo, Forza, even some of the mobile games are a huge contributor.
Oh, for sure.
To the culture, right? Because there's a whole generation that loves Spoon, GTRs because they played Gran Turismo 1, 2, 3, and then got into graphics and whatnot when Forza allowed the livery editor, right? And then you could choose parts to mod as well.
So we talked about this moment where we felt like the enthusiast market was gone, right? Where there was like, the Wall Street Journal said no young kids are getting their driver's license, right? This was like this like kind of post-recession moment. The Prius is the most popular car in Hollywood. And that's when we launched Hoonigan. So like we're literally launching a brand about car culture and enthusiasts when it feels like it's at its worst, right? And one of the things that we would always tell people is like the community's there. They're just in video games right now.
Right.
And they're going to emerge because we were watching what was happening in the gaming community. And then when we did the collab with Forza, it was crazy because I would show up to events with my 911 and people would be like, yo, you built the car from Forza. And I'm like, no, it's my car in Forza. But just the realization that Forza was bigger than anything we were doing, right? And there were people who knew. I mean, I remember when the Dirt video game came out, I talking to Colin McRae, and Colin McRae said, people think I'm a video game character.
Oh, wow.
Like they don't know I'm actually a WRC driver, right?
Multiple champion.
When he said that to me, like it didn't make sense. And then years later, we're in this similar situation where people are seeing the unicorn in a game or one of our cars, and they don't know that those cars actually exist in real life. They see them as game cars, and then that's their entryway in.
Sure.
And Hoonigan has a lot to thank to the Forza guys, because we saw this huge surge in like a new younger audience that wasn't old enough to drive yet.
Yep.
But all of a sudden became aware of us and then tuned into the content we were making because of that. So like I think that in a lot of ways, gaming culture kept the car community alive during its worst period.
I was so excited. I had met Kazunori Yamauchi from Gran Turismo, creator of Gran Turismo. I had some friends at Sony US. I got invited when they were making Gran Turismo 3. They had to map Laguna Seca and Sears Point.
Oh, yeah.
So I went on that trip with them and rode around in the van as they like mapped the track out, very different from how they do it now. And then somehow got connected to the Forza guys, Dan Greenwald and everyone at Turn 10. For Forza 1, they had this idea that people would drive the game and then drive the track in real life. And so they got Gunnar, I think his name is Gunnar Gennard or something. He's a pro prototype driver that drove for Panos or something. And then they're like, hey, RJ, we're thinking you could be like the gamer kid. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. And they're like, hey, we think you guys will race in the game and then you'll compete on the track. I'm like, I'm not that great of a driver. This guy's going to wipe the floor with me. So, but that was I remember thinking like nothing's going to beat Gran Turismo. Right. And who are you guys? Like, oh yeah, Microsoft. Yeah, you guys are big, and I played the game. I was like, oh wow, this was pretty good. It was very different. And then as they made Forza 2 and allowed modification and then delivery, I was like, wow. Now there's these two huge franchises. And of course, Need for Speed came out as well. Very different, but still, again, another franchise that I felt like was such a big part of how people got introduced to cars and then also modifying cars. And special cars. Like, oh, I won this car. I had to race however long, and then it was a prize or whatever.
It's funny how much of that has built sort of, I think in a lot of ways, the video game became the new car magazine. And I don't mean like Super Street, I mean like Motor Trend and Automobile, because people understood the stats because they read the stats in the game. So the other day, a friend of mine, Matt Kirk, he bought a Lupo Cup car, which is like a small Volkswagen, like almost like, it's almost like the Germans' version of a K car, right? So it's really, really small. But they built this racing series called the Lupo GTI Cup series. And most people know it because it was in Gran Turismo. So I post the photo, not realize, like thinking about it from a VW POV, and all these people were like, Gran Turismo, and I was like, oh, I forgot, right? Lupo Cup was one of the things you had to do. You had to clear to get your license or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's so funny, like how so many people know about cars. The way that I think you and I probably know because we read the magazines. Where for them the video game was that, and they got to, and especially like knowing how much horsepower it had, it's 0 to 60 time. Like these were things that were relevant stats. Where we read it in this little column in the corner of the magazine, they got it as like this layout.
There was a moment I was going to Supercar Saturdays at Lambeau Newport, like 2014, where it felt like kids were not into cars anymore, and then it kind of shifted. And I remember being at one of those meets. And I hear like a young voice, and I turn around and it's like some 12-year-old, and he's spitting like every stat to like his dad, right? And I'm like, oh, it's coming back. And then,
I mean, that's the old joke of like where they talk about train kids. And like honestly, car guys are the exact same. Like where you could just lay everything stat out, about this, that, and the other thing. It's interesting. I went to a very similar event that you did, but it was for Gran Turismo, which was like, we're going to take it from the track and then play in the game. We did it Laguna Seca, but it was actually my first. The only thing I really remember from the weekend was it was my first time hanging out with Ken Gucci because he had just done the Ford deal. And so he was like 19, right? And it was like this, and that was like before Laguna allowed drifting, and he starts like drifting through the track, and they're like lose their mind over it. But I remember like my time was like 62 seconds off the video game because like on the game you're just like flat out through everything, and then you're like, I'm clearly not a race car driver.
Right. That was humbling.
Definitely.
I tried to be a race car driver in my life. That didn't pan out.
When was that?
Well, because of all the import drag racing stuff, like Steph, Adam, everyone was getting pro deals. So I had done a deal with Acura to build a front-wheel drive pro car. You know, I never finished it. My first chassis was crooked, had to scrap it. Paid another builder. The engine guys closed down, so I just said forget it. I then tried to be a circuit driver with the RSX that they gave me. They gave me a couple engines and a pre-production chassis to try to build a race team. And I was, you know, I could work my way to be a decent driver and be like mid-pack, and I was pretty quick on a go-kart.
Yep.
But I wasn't like, you know, before we started, I talked about living with Dai, and like Dai was so naturally gifted, and I knew Steph, and he was so naturally gifted, and I had to work really hard to just be decent.
Right.
And I had all these sponsors because I was all consulting for them. So everyone thought I had these huge deals to go race, but no, I had this deal to help them market, and then I just used that money to go racing.
Which is what everyone does.
Which is what everyone does. So then I just never... it got to a point it got too expensive, and I was like, well, I really need to focus on just making money to pay the bills, and the racing's just using up too much of it. So I have all this photography and like the Sparko suit with all the sponsors, and I had a custom helmet, and again, I was not bad, but I wasn't like winning a bunch of stuff. You know, I would go to like the go-kart tracks, and then other people that would race like NASA and SCCA, they're like, oh, car show kid. They're like instantly like, this guy can't drive, you know? And then one of my other roommates was this guy, Andy Hope, who was I
remember Andy.
A Honda H1 champion. And he would be like, oh, car show kid's not bad, you know? And then we'd go race, and I'd kind of win because I was pretty small.
Right.
And these guys were like, wow, car show kid ain't half bad, you know? But that's all I was known for. That's the peak of my racing, you know, career. So, but
do you get to go do track days at all anymore, or?
Not as much. So when I was at Meguiars, we were a sponsor of AMG's Driving Academy.
Okay.
There were a lot of times I would take media there. And so I got a lot of track time, which is why I ended up in an SLS, because it was so capable on track, and it was very surprising. So that was the last. I probably did 5 or 6 or 7, you know, 2-3 day advanced kind of track days. I'd love to do the Porsche one, which I think is at Barber Motorsports, right?
Barber's fantastic.
Yeah, I've heard really great things. But I've driven Laguna a lot. I drove Coda a lot. I've driven Road Atlanta. I do miss it. You know, I don't believe in taking any of my cars to the track.
Yeah.
I'd rather go drive someone else's car.
I mean, that was the best part about being a journalist.
Yeah.
Because I've driven so many tracks in other people's cars.
Do you have a favorite one?
In the U.S., it's probably Laguna Seca. I do really love Barber, though.
Okay.
I mean, Barber is a fantastic... I think I drove a Lotus there. I forget what I drove there. But it's just a fantastic circuit.
Right.
And I like the shape of it. I like VIR a lot.
Okay. I haven't driven VIR.
Internationally... Nürburgring is like.
Have you driven that?
Yeah, it's
the whole thing?
A bunch.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a. Vinny, and Ron were supposed to race.
I heard
the
about
24.
that. Yeah, in a Hyundai or something.
Yeah, with Hyundai, and so
Lived
we were
there for
prepping
2 months
for that.
or something.
Yeah, there was a whole thing, and unfortunately,
What a
it all fell apart with
Yeah.
sort of how the things ended with Hoonigan. But that's always been like I would love to go spend 3 months, live there,
Do that.
and just buy like a ring weapon and just go and drive it
What
every
would be
day.
the ring weapon?
That's a good question, because I think that's probably I don't know.
Would you start in a lower car and then progress like Gran Turismo?
I am definitely like Vinny's the kind of guy who like wants to go drive in a GT3 RS, and like I'm like I'll go in a Lupo Cup car to start. Like I like
that
ringing the slowest thing possible as fast as I can go, and then upgrade, especially as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
Like I've driven really fast cars on track, and I don't like thinking about the math of the speed.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like where you're like, fuck, I'm moving right now.
Yeah.
Like I kind of
where your foot starts to
where you're
jitter,
like, don't lift, don't lift. Like when you have to yell at your foot not
Yeah.
to lift, like versus like being in a car where you're just like just manhandling it through corners. Like I prefer to be at 11/10 than like be nervous at an 8 or 9/10 in a car.
And an RS will definitely scare you.
Yeah,
The living daylights out of you.
So so I don't know. I think that there's that, and then I don't know. I've driven a bunch, and it was super fun as a journalist to do that. I missed that part of it. It was really fun. I don't get out on track anywhere near as much as I should. I think the last time I was on track was like 2 years ago in the Ferrari.
Like we always talk about I built this S2000 to be a weekend track car. 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
Zero.
I keep thinking I'm going to get back up to Willow Springs because like I know a bunch of people who work there and like because like, that's the last thing I did was streets in the Ferrari. But
streets looks beautiful now with all the runoff and everything.
Yeah.
I'd love to try it.
It looks good.
We need to make a package.
We should do that. Yeah, we could go slow. We could go slow man car day out there. Yeah, just chilling. But yeah, I don't know. I love racing. I was also that person who wanted to be a race car driver, but knew I didn't have the means to. Which is one of the reasons I went to journalism. Okay. I think one of the jokes is like, if you're not fast enough to race, right?
Oh, wow. I guess I kind of fell into that as well.
Because you could still get the access. You could still get to the cars. You could still kind of do all of that. And then when I met Ken, I was actually trying to make a real strong effort to start rally racing. Sure. And then Ken was like, okay, I want you to come and help me run my team and do all that. I'm like, cool. And I was building a rally car. Do you know Soupy?
Yeah.
So
Soupy from his Florida days, actually.
Yeah. So Soupy was building a rally car for me, and it was like sitting at his shop when he was running LM24 after RPM. And Ken, I was like, okay, it's like in my head, I'm like, I'm going to race rally. And I'm like, getting all prep for it. And Ken's like, you can't race the same series I compete in. He's like, you have a job you have to do while I'm there. And I was like, oh, right. All right, Soupy, sell the car. And then that was pretty much like my last real intention of like trying to go do racing. But I don't know. I hope I have this like next chapter in my life where I get to be like a gentleman driver and I show up and go do track. Like Jeff Swart. Like I want to be Jeff Swart where like my greatest racing I do in my 50s and 60s.
I'll try and join you.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I'll try and join you, man.
And you could be a car show guy, and I could be like whatever film director guy or whatever it is that'll
be the name above our door.
Yeah, exactly.
Film director guy and car show guy.
Yeah, exactly. So,
what is your next? Because I know this has been a topic in a few of the pods. Like, what's your next? I know you're working on or finished Drifter. I think.
I mean, I've been done with that since last year, but obviously still.
Yeah, are you working on anything you can talk about, or?
I've got 2 different feature films that are like in early stages of me doing kind of the same thing I did for Drifter, which is like second unit director work on action, and I love that. Yeah. Like, if I could pick anything in the world to do, that would be it. That's your that's the next. I really
life stage of Scotto.
Yeah,
Scotto.
And it's interesting. And I think that's why, like, when we talked before about Fast and Furious, it's why I like Tokyo Drift, because I can respect a lot of the driving that was done in that. I would still do different, but still, I love. I know that a lot of it was done for real, and I like the practical side of it. So that part's interesting. But what I learned with this film with Sung Kang, Sung was extremely gracious with like giving me room to do my thing, right? So he kind of let me, really, choose how the action scenes were going to happen and develop those and work with him on it. But there was also a couple moments where they let me step in and do some narrative work. Okay. And that's not my specialty. Sure. But I was like, wow, I really enjoy this piece.
Yeah, because you're writing a few things, right?
I helped them with some of the scenes in the car scenes. Like, so one of the scenes, a bunch of the stuff with Dai, I built around for him.
I haven't watched it. I haven't seen any of it.
Oh, really?
I'd also Sung.
Yeah,
hook a brother up.
Yeah. I can't. It's. There's going to be an announcement soon, but I can't talk about it yet. Yeah. But that was really, really fun. It was 30 days on set. It was brutal, but but I loved it. Yeah. And I realized, like, this is what I would love that to be my life, but not just the car stuff. I just enjoyed putting the package together and making things. Yeah. And it felt somewhat similar to like the magazine days where it's like you make all these things and all these different pieces and then you compile them, where YouTube feels a little bit more fractured than that. It wasn't the same sort of experience because it's like, oh, it's very singular. It's that. Yeah. And I love sort of that, like that bigger package building. So there's that.
I'd love to see you do a project that's more car like Drifter is it's like the drifting side. It's something I think you had spoken about, or maybe Will was asking you, like, how would you write a spin-off for Fast? Right? Yeah. Let's say it's my character who had 2, 3.
Let's do it. This is what we should do. We should do this 3 lines. Yeah. Danny Yamato. Yeah.
Sabal's always like, he does this hashtag, like, bring Danny Yamato back, just for fun, because he's that guy. He's my friend like that. And
I mean, but I like am actually shocked because of how valuable the IP asset of Fast and Furious is, that they haven't done more spin-offs.
Well,
I know
they're
they've
supposed-
just started to announce that they're going to do
The TV
a
series.
TV series and all of that, which is great because I think there's a lot of world. But if you go back to the first one, it's like, whatever happened to Hector?
Yeah.
Like there's so many things
yeah.
you could, there's so many pieces that you could pull together and build new stories from. You could build backstories. You could build all these things, which I think could be great.
We need to work on a project that's very 90s.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
I think,
rooted.
I think that, one, I think the community's out there for it. They want it now. There hasn't, while there's been really good movies that have cars in them, like Baby Driver and whatever, there hasn't been another car culture movie. And if we're being honest about Fast and Furious, it stopped being about car culture by
it's a
like
spy
the third
movie.
one.
I mean, I think there's the Avengers reference.
Yeah,
in
it's
cars.
everything else. And it's like, I really think that the car community would support another good car culture movie, not a racing movie, a car culture movie.
Supposedly they're going to try to go back to it in 11 is what they've said, which I don't know how you walk back from going into space in the Fiero.
Yeah.
It's
to the moon.
To the moon. It was so funny to me. I was in the movie theater because I still love watching it in the theater, even though
me and Hurt went to go see it, and we just
and
sat
I remember
there laughing.
I was sitting there. I'm like, and I blurted out, "Fiero prices just went up." But yeah, I think it'd be great to do. I mean, you're the perfect guy because you were in hip hop culture. You're very 90s. You were in car culture that were in the 90s. Like, I couldn't think of anyone. There aren't many people that could bring that two together because it would be a culture movie.
So I'll tell you what my ultimate dream would be is to write and direct Fast and Furious 1 if it was never moved to Los Angeles.
The New York side.
The original New York story, which was based off the Vibe magazine article. I think doing that justice and like really gritty, like those guys were based in Yonkers, the Bronx, running like that was a sketchy time in New York where like just living in New York was a story. Like you don't need to be, robbing international kingpins. Like you don't need any of that because it's just what these guys were doing to pay for their cars and the people that they were around, and all of that is like a real true life story that I think would just do well. So
there you go. You got one of your next projects.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, I think someone owns the IP to it, so they'd have to invite me to come do it. But
that's true.
Maybe this will be what gets it out there.
We're making the call out there.
Have they ever reached back out to you? Like, have they ever said, "Hey, we'd like you back"?
No, not really. Vin had reached out a couple times. I remember coming to the Triple X set when they wrote the script for Fast 2.
Yeah.
Because Rob Cohen was the director who became a friend, did Triple X with Vin. And I remember going on set and like, what do you think? We're thinking it's a one and done. And then I didn't hear from them for a while. And then Vin started his production company where he was doing gaming and cars. And he had an IP idea for another property that had him as a driver, and it wasn't Fast. And this is before he jumped back on. And that was the last time I had heard from him. Yeah. And that was it. Paul and I would talk here and there.
Yeah.
But Paul wasn't really as involved in the production side of things like Vin was. So I've just watched from afar.
Yeah.
3 was Justin's baby. Toshi who did Apex USA was the one that consulted on that because they were friends and they had a different vision, which became Tokyo Drift, which was pretty amazing. So yeah, it was like it was a one and done for me, to be honest. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. It helped propel my career into this stage of being a consultant for product development and marketing and whatever else I did in that 8 to 10 year span. So it'd be fun to kind of jump back in it.
Yeah.
I still get residuals now, which is crazy.
Wait, really?
Yeah, 25 years later. Because Danny Yamato was a character.
Mailbox money.
Yeah, it's enough to buy a pair of sneakers or have nice dinner, but it's still 25 years ago, which is crazy to me. And I know they're going to launch it in theaters in August. So I'm wondering if I get a residual from that. I'm assuming I do.
They're bringing the original movie back.
Kind of got remastered.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, sometime in August, right around Car Week, I think.
Oh, cool. So, is it coming through is it being done by the studio? So it'll be everywhere. It's not just like, what was it, Phantom or whoever does
it's definitely Universal.
Okay, very cool.
Like playing up the 25th year anniversary.
That's a super smart idea from the theater side. Like, I'll go see that.
I think it's only 7 days is what I've read. They've got the roller coasters that are promoting that.
Right.
So they're just milking it, which for me, great. I'll take a little bit of extra money.
Is it interesting to you when people talk about how they get into cars now, and a lot of people mention things like
Yeah.
Fast and Furious because we obviously were in it before that.
It's surreal. One of the most surreal moments, I was at Top Rank. They had an open house, and a couple friends who had done work for GT Channel, Taro and a couple guys from Japan, Masa and Katsu, they've all moved on, right? But they were part of Best Motoring and Hot Version. So they're here for the Top Rank deal, and they're like, "Hey, RJ, we have a friend that really wants to meet you. Do you mind?" I'm like, "All right, cool." Like, that doesn't really happen to me anymore. Like, what's the story? He's like, "Well, he owns a really big GTR tuning shop in Japan. It's called Garage Yoshida. Have you heard of it?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, he didn't know what he wanted to do before he started Garage Yoshida. He watched Fast and Furious, and that's what helped him decide that he was going to have a life, kind of modding cars and restoring cars. And he knew you had a big part to do with it because he had the DVD, and I was in the extra section.
Right, he watched the back section.
Section. And I was like, wow, this is like, that's like kind of blew my mind a little bit. So in that same vein, because we were in the scene before, I don't really think of people getting into cars because of the movie, more so through like video games and stuff like that, like we talked about. But the movie being like that kickoff point is still very humbling and surreal to me, because I had a small part to do in launching that franchise. So there's definitely like a proud moment there, regardless of what you think of the franchise or not. Like, having that impact is something that really drives me from like a purpose perspective. And so, it's really, for me, it's like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. It makes me feel real good. Like, I've done something in my life.
It's a really good feeling. I've won awards. I've done all these things. Sure. When someone comes to me and says like, "Oh, I got into cars because of Gymkhana or because I started watching the Hoonigans," I'm like, cool, that's awesome. Because like, to think you can usher people into a space. And that was always something that was really important to, I think, both Ken and I. Sure. Ken obviously was in skateboarding, and it was always about like bringing the younger group in. But as we were, as I mentioned, in a period where it felt like people were leaving car culture, this idea of like, how do we bring these young kids in? Like, how do we get them interested in it? How do you get them excited about it again? And it was always about entertainment for us, right? Like how you do that. And like, if there's anything I'm most proud of, it's not like all the views and everything it was the people who said, I wasn't really even into this, and these kids in my school showed it to me, and like now I got a Project S13, and you're like, hell yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's like you now have the same addiction.
I mean, that's the story of my life, right? It's why I'm at SEMA at the end of the day. We're the people behind the people behind the people. It's a swingers quote. We're the man behind the man,
the guy behind the guy behind the guy. Yeah.
and my trajectory in my career is I talked about it earlier. It's like, how do I get people involved? How do I get people excited about this thing that I love, this thing that you love, right? And you can see that there's a true point thing that we both have, in the things that we've worked on, the projects that we've put out there. And for me, SEMA is kind of that entity that's been there the whole time. And it's more business oriented, right? But
I'm really curious about the SEMA thing, because I have sat on a couple different like task groups and things for SEMA. And those were, for me, they were all unpaid. I did them because I really care and I want the community to do better. So I did like a media and communications task group. I worked with Mike in the past before he was president on, how we deal, and this was when takeovers were earlier, but like how we deal with some of that stuff and different things along that. Because I care, like I love this culture. It's a community. It's something like, it's the give back piece of like, keep this going. And I will admit, there's always been a part of me that has questioned like, do I eventually end up at SEMA? Right. And I don't mean that like in a bad way, but like I could see that where value ends there. Right. So, and I do want to actually talk about the Meguiar days, because I was really surprised that you were at Meguiar's for so long.
Me too.
Because you were doing so many things. You had like a wheel company. You had diecast stuff. You were doing so many things, and then you're like, I'm gonna go spend a decade at Meguiar's, which seemed different from your initial trajectory. But we can go back to that. Well, we're on the SEMA thing now. What attracted you to go to SEMA and kind of to do that?
Yeah, so I'd been at Meguiar's 3M really, cutting my teeth, learning kind of publicly traded life. Big corporate, 95,000 employees, sold in 100 plus companies. And so I stayed at Meguiars/3M because I was learning so much about global business and how global business run in a multi-hundred million, multi-billion, tens of billions perspective. And I didn't feel like I might not ever get that experience again. Right. And so I thought I'd be at Meguiars/3M for 2 years. The recession hit, all my stuff fell apart because everything that was an extra program got cut. And Meguiars was a client. They offered me a position to do some wrap stuff. And that's how I started. And then I ended up having a boss who just gave me like opportunity after opportunity. And then I started to dig into understanding the business that goes behind what it takes to build a multi-$100 million company, a multi-billion dollar company. And that really was just so engaging for me. And then I got to a point where I'd lived the movie 3-4 times over. And I was like, what's next? And so I interviewed maybe after like year 6 or 7, multiple times, OEMs, other places, and nothing seemed to fit. And then the SEMA opportunity came, and a friend of mine that worked there, like, hey, our VP of marketing left. I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that. And it was a good friend. I'm like, let me spread the word. Let me help find someone. And that person said, no, RJ, I want to recommend you. And I was like, no, I'm good. I had stock options, golden handcuffs. I'm like, I'm good. I'm not leaving this place. And she's like, no, RJ, you've been coming to SEMA, since whatever, like 20 plus years. I'm almost at 30. This, like you love the industry. You could do some good here. And I thought about that, and I'd done some work with a life coach, career coach about like finding my purpose at that time, or no, just before then. And I was kind of reverting back to like, what is my purpose, right? And by this point in my life, I decided my purpose was to help people build better versions of themselves, which included organizations, which included myself. And then I thought about the SEMA opportunity, and then I ended up meeting with Chris, who was the CEO at the time, learning a little bit more of what their goals were. And then it kind of fizzled out. And then Mike became was kind of interim CEO. And so he called me. It's like, hey, you're still interested? And I said, kind of, And then I had a great meeting with him and just really thought about like what SEMA does for the industry. And I was like, to your point, like there's a piece that's like, I at least have to spend some time there and see what I could do to help, protect, prolong, spread this industry that we both grew up in,
And for those listening who only think of SEMA as the SEMA show and realize that that's just a really small percentage, can you just give a real small nutshell of like everything SEMA does?
Sure. So SEMA's a nonprofit. Not a lot of people realize it's a nonprofit, and the nonprofit's goal is just to foster the success of the aftermarket, right? Most people see that through the SEMA show or the PRI show. And that's the organization giving an opportunity for manufacturers to meet with buyers or manufacturers to get exposure for new products. And it's become its own juggernaut. Both shows have their own audiences. Behind that, and that generates most of the money that we then reinvest back into the industry. And so we have a lot of other programs that are more investment pillars. So as an example, SEMA Garage, you talked about it earlier, that Mike Spagnola, our CEO, came to SEMA out of retirement to start that 10 years ago or whatever it was. And the garage really helps with product development. You want to 3D scan something, you want CAD data for a particular vehicle because you want to create a prototype. You want to, you create an exhaust or an intake and you need to run it through emissions compliance testing and get the paperwork filled out for CARB. We do all of that. But we pretty much operate that at a loss because we want the rates to be favorable to the industry. So that's one big part.
And didn't you guys I just read something the other day, like there's some new thing that passed that now the government's allowing you guys to actually CARB approve, right?
We have a thing called SEMA Certified, where we take the testing rules that CARB applies and EPA applies to be compliant for emissions compliance. And we created something called SEMA Certified. The EPA just announced that they will accept that as good enough to be EPA 49 state compliant. We're still working on a new bill in California that recognizes SEMA cert as proof to also be CARB compliant, which is huge. Which is huge. So that's one part that some people know about, but not everyone.
And for those listening, like if you run a small company and you're trying to make things that the EPA regulate, nowadays it's almost impossible.
It's hard. It's
but
expensive.
you guys are making it a lot easier for that. Where because
Right.
like in the 2000s, like everybody was making everything,
Yeah.
and it was a lot more sort of loose.
Well, and people,
Right.
they weren't cracking down as
They
much.
weren't cracking down. So even if it was illegal, you could just be like offered use only, and everyone got by on that. But now they're cracking down on that a lot more.
So that's one part's product development. On the other side is SEMA's product distribution. So we have a division called SEMA Data, where we standardize people's product data so that if you're a small manufacturer, a big online store, whether it's a Jegs or a Summit or an Amazon or an AutoZone, can intake your data and sell it.
Yep.
Again, another thing that isn't the cheapest thing in the world to do. So we just make it accessible.
Yep.
So that's another thing that SEMA is really big and known for, the government advocacy.
You guys also like will measure new cars. So
Yeah, that's in
which is-
SEMA
which is
Garage.
The SEMA
Yeah.
Garage part, because I remember talking to Mike about that. Which is again, if you're a small up and coming
You don't have
designer,
access.
you lose 2 or
Yeah.
3 years in development because only a few people get invited to go see what the new
Well,
Ford Mustang.
They
is
have to
gonna be
buy
or
one
something.
usually.
Yeah.
Right. So we work with the OEMs to get access to the manufacturers to do measurements, test fitting before
Before
the
it
vehicle
even
comes
releases,
out.
yeah.
So that way, when it comes out and they're at SEMA, they already have the new part for the latest Bronco, 4Runner, Mustang, Supra, GT, whatever it is.
So what is your day to day like at SEMA now?
It's madness. It's madness. Because, as the marketing VP, I basically lead a team of individuals that's like an internal agency, much like Enocean is for
Got it.
for Hyundai. And so every day there's about 30 or so stakeholders that we serve. So every day my hat's just trying to, kind of guide the madness that we as an internal team have to serve all these business units in terms from a marketing and communications perspective. A lot of my time does get focused on SEMA Show, SEMA Fest, membership, the things that create revenue, because we need that to be able to function and to do all the things that we do, whether it's SEMA Garage, SEMA Data. We have a huge volunteer program, the things that you were a part of in councils and networks, where for different segments of the industry, like trucker off-road or automotive restoration or, Future Leaders Network, we offer all these events where you can network and build yourself up or build your business up. And so all of that costs money, right?
Yep.
And so we need to continue to generate more money to do even more, along with the stuff that we're doing on the government advocacy side. We're a huge part to the reversal of the EV mandate, right? And having the choice, in 2030 to not be forced to buy only EV, right? Whatever it's going to be, hydrogen, synthetic fuel, EV. I mean, EV is a part of it, plug-in hybrid. So that was a big part. We spent quite a bit of money.
Which
doing
reminds
that.
me,
Yeah.
I texted Mike like 2 weeks ago and I was like, dude, I have a really good idea to get more like SEMA Action Network stuff out there. And he was like, cool, let's set up a call. And I never did.
Good, yeah.
So Mike, if you're listening, call me because I've got a really good idea. Because I think not enough people know about sort of what you guys are doing in the lobbying side, because that's really important for the community. We all bitch and moan on Instagram about this, and I got this and I got state ref, and it's like, but like you complaining on the internet isn't going to help, but us as a collective group with lobbying behind it will actually help.
Our government affairs teams has a saying, no spaces, no races, right? If you don't have the space, like a racetrack to race, like a lot of that then starts to die down, and then the businesses cease to exist, and the whole
it's still like a $8 billion business or something.
over like 52, 53 billion, and then the economic impact is great, like 337 billion or something crazy like that. So we're an industry that gets noticed. That's the great thing about our government affairs teams. They really reinforced a lot of the data that's out there. Like we affect 1.3 million jobs as an example, and so when politicians hear that, they stand up and go, okay, we're going to listen. And so it's you feel I myself feel very proud to be part of this organization that's fighting the good fight. I don't know if I'll stay there forever. I said that when I was at 3M. I thought I'd stay for 2. I was there for 12. I'm on year 4 or 5, completely enjoying what I'm doing, still learning. SEMA Fest, as an example, I never thought I'd be a promoter of concert.
Yeah,
you know,
I was
music
there for I
festival.
helped do the first one.
Yeah,
it
you
was a
guys
lot
were
of
there.
fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a
We
lot
still
of fun.
use the photo of the Mustang a lot.
Sweet. And hopefully the car, he like jumped over the jumped over the motorhome, but he like rotated midair, so he was like through the roof. He was like, it was basically kickflipped the car.
That's Gabby Downing's boyfriend at the
Oh
time.
yeah. Jim York. Jim York.
Yeah. So still learning. Finally in a groove, because the first one we were just drinking out of a fire.
It was
like
crazy.
no tomorrow. But
my ultimate moment, by the way, at that event, and for those, SEMA Fest was this festival, like a music festival with cars that was sort of adjacent to SEMA. So it kicked off on like Friday right before.
Yes.
It was weird because I had actually already left Hoonigan, but the concept for doing SEMA Fest was this idea that we'd been talking about with you guys.
Sure.
I remember when you first came on, you showed up at Hoonigan. I'm like, what are you doing here? You're like, I work for SEMA now.
Right.
And we had been talking about wanting to do something with you guys forever. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stay on to do that.
Sure.
I hadn't announced I'd left yet. But the best part of it the whole time was Bush went on. And we got like our schedule was off. So we were still putting on this like crazy show with like cars flipping and all this stuff. And apparently Gavin from Bush asked if we could shut up. And I was like, and then everyone, and then we heard it on our side. And because he used to date, what's her face from No Doubt, Gwen Stefani. Everyone just started chanting, Team Gwen, Team Gwen. And I was like, this is just a fun pop culture moment right now. So yeah, I just saw the 311 was there because
Are you a big 311 fan?
Not a big one. I'm a secret 311 fan, which is now no longer a secret because I just said it on my pod. But it's one of the things. I'm like, I kind of like 311.
Yeah, we just did the announce yesterday. So Offspring's the headliner, Jimmy Eat World 311 and The Alive. So we're excited about the lineup. I'm personally more of a hip hop guy, so it's a little bit detached. But
have you guys not gotten any hip hop?
Not since the first one. You know, we had Luda and Wes Khalifa that first one, but our crowd really loves rock music and punk rock, and that's what makes sense, especially since we moved it to the SEMA Show campus and there's only like 3 or 4 bands and it's only one day. It's just what makes sense. It sells tickets.
Do you remember back in the day when Dub used to do the concert at SEMA?
Yeah.
That was always good.
That was always good.
That was like
and then they moved to the beach and the club and stuff. So it's really exciting. My day, circling back to his question, is just full of meetings. I'll be in 8 to 10 to 12 meetings. Today I told my team,
maybe I don't want to ever work at SEMA.
So it was the funny part of it was when I left 3M, our inside joke at 3M, it stood for meetings. As you can imagine, multinational company, right? 90,000 employees, you're in meetings all the time. And all over 3 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m. because you're like, oh, it's a call with China, it's a call with the UK, whatever it is. So I left thinking, oh, thank God I can let go of that. And then I got to SEMA, it's like, it's just as bad.
I have this app idea. And if anyone listening decides that they want to make it themselves, like vibe coding it or whatever, just give me like 10%. I want to make an app where it plugs into like Zoom, Teams, Google, and it takes everyone's salary and it shows how much minute the meeting is costing us. Because I think we would have less meetings when people went, oh my, look at how much this meeting is costing us for everyone, for these 13 people to be in the room.
Mike Spagnola, our CEO, he'll do that actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's like super financially minded and frugal. Good. That's just the way he runs things. Yeah. He'll stop sometimes and he's like, this is costing us a lot of money. Like, let's wrap up, so.
It's true. It's like something's like, why are we all here? We don't need to do this.
It's pervasive and we're not even that large of an organization, but because we I think most organizations want to be a collaboration culture. Yeah. That you end up having way too many people in the meeting. Yeah. Well, I'd like to keep informed. It's like, well, you get the meeting notes. You don't need to be in a meeting.
So can I hit you with some hard SEMA show questions?
Sure.
How are you, and this was a task force I sat on, so I know a little of the internal, but, I think there's this really delicate line that the show lives.
Sure.
Where part of it is that you are you're literally a manufacturers association that is a nonprofit that is funded by these manufacturers. But you're also probably the most important car show in the world, right?
Yeah, my VP of events would like roll his eyes because he doesn't see it as a car show.
But it is.
Yeah, it's
like
both.
Every influencer, every creator is building a car that will end up at the SEMA show. There is an entire cottage industry of money being spent to program YouTube content and Instagram content.
The cars are the stars.
To release cars at SEMA. If you only showed parts, if you guys banned cars,
it'd be different.
It would feel like
it'd be different.
Yeah, I mean, it would be closer, I guess, like Apex or something. But like where it doesn't,
energy wouldn't be.
It wouldn't be the energy, and
different energy. It would be business energy only.
But there's like, I know that this is a huge fight internally because some manufacturers just really want it to be
B2B,
a B2B.
Yeah,
and the show has been going the other way now. Like Fridays have like
open to the public.
You've got SEMA Fest, things like that. I have always been obviously helping you guys do the burn yard out front and all of that back in the day. I see the value of this being really exciting to the industry, and I think it's this cool thing that people want to come to. I think it's great that people print their own badges and steal badges.
I'm going to close my eyes.
No, but it's good. You want something that people want to sneak into, right? I mean, that's a good thing. I know it's bad from that side, but the fact that this is this thing that we used to kind of give like a golden ticket to SEMA where people would get to win a chance to come and go to SEMA and like meet, Ken Block. And like for them, it was just as exciting to walk the SEMA floor as it was to hang out with Ken Block for whatever, 20 minutes. Because it felt, I remember my first SEMA, which was 2003 or 2004. And it was like crazy to see this thing that used to only be 2 pages in a magazine or 3 pages in a magazine. You're like, oh my God, it takes like 3 days to walk this thing, right?
It's hard to explain to anyone that's never gone, right?
Yeah.
Much like Car Week or Festival of Speed or Tokyo Auto Salon, it's like, it's just a mecca,
But so as someone who's on the marketing side of it, how do you parse this? Like the what a lot of the manufacturers and the people who are part of the organization want it to be versus like the element that it has become the ultimate display for car builds.
It's a tough balance for sure. And I would say it's shifting more so now in the last 5 years than ever before, where pre-pandemic, I would say most, and I wasn't there yet, but most of the data from the exhibitors said, we don't want it to be a public day. We want it to only be B2B, some crazy percentage.
This is when I was on the task force, so I remember that.
Yeah, and then it started to shift partly because of the pandemic. More exhibitors became open to a public day because they had many of them, not all, had to build a D2C business. And so now the idea of talking to a end customer wasn't as off-putting. It's still a tough challenge for us. It's still 50-50 where like 50% are like, all week public, or 2 days public, whatever it's going to be. And another 50% like, no, let's keep it B2B. I'm a 2-step or 3-step distribution business where I don't sell direct to consumer. I sell to a wholesaler or a jobber. So that's the toughest balance that we as an organization are trying to juggle. From the marketing side, we have different campaigns for different things. So we have a campaign to prove the value of the show to anybody that's an exhibitor. We have a campaign to prove the value to anyone that's an attendee, whether you're a buyer or you're media or you're a content creator or something else. And then we have a different campaign if you're just an enthusiast, right? And you can come for open to the public day on Friday and cap it off with the SEMA Fest concert. So that's our best way of trying to juggle. Larry was just in our office yesterday, Larry Chen, who's our artist of the show right now. And he's like, same as you, like why isn't public day 2 days or all week? Like, And I would say certain halls.
I also get it though, because as someone who would get like just, people like, oh, can you sponsor me? Can I get this free? Like your marketing guys end up spending a lot of time dealing with the public, which like really isn't industry related.
Right.
And you end up having to deal with that. And the other one, which I hate to say, but it is true, is like all of a sudden like loss prevention, all these things become a bigger problem when you have more of like an open space and it's not just industry.
I mean, yes and no, because our open to the public ticket is not a $10 auto show ticket, right? You're like pretty much $100 plus. So you really have to want to go. Because it's not like a small amount. Will you still have more challenges? Of course. I think it's really up to the exhibitors to look at themselves, look in the mirror and be like, well, we go to all these other events. You just got to change your hat. Right? Like if it's not a person with a shop or a WD and end customer, like, oh, you're really interested in that part? Where do you live? Oh, you can go to this shop or you can buy online here, unless they have their own online solution, because many of them do now. So part of it is just in the hands of the industry, because our VP of events, Tom Gattuso, his famous words around the SEMA show is we're just a reflection of the industry.
Right.
So as the industry moves there, we move there.
Yep.
Sometimes we move one step ahead. We can't move 5 steps ahead because we need this relationship between the exhibitor, the attendee, whether it's business or enthusiast, to continue to exist. And if you get it to be too one-sided, you lose the other.
And look, the need for SEMA has completely changed for the manufacturer, right? 20 years ago, you were showing up, you were doing orders, you were literally doing the business.
It was all distribution.
It was everyone was doing their year worth of distribution and all of that and doing a lot of their deals. And even in the magazine era, we would sell most of our advertising like on the SEMA floor. Like there was a quota for the ad guys, like Gordon Ting and people like that. And I think that's how you and I actually first met. I was thinking about that.
Probably
before.
a rides party or something.
Yeah, or something like that. You know, like had to sell a certain number of pages while we were at SEMA. I don't think that's true anymore. I think it's now become a presentation that actually, and I think rightfully so, is developed and created for social media. Because that expands what you're doing.
If you're smart about it.
If you're smart about it,
Because there is still a very real part to the business side.
Yeah,
especially if you're a new company, yet you don't have distribution, you still use the SEMA show. Like you want to meet buyers, right? And there's a ton of that happens, especially if it's a new company or there's a new product. The thing that's really elevated it from a marketing and branding perspective is the reach of digital. You know, before magazines came and we would meet with editors, and when I was at Meguiars and when I was the steward, and actually that group reported to me, and we were spending astronomical amounts of money to have 3 different activations, but it was really, we didn't need any more distribution. Yeah. Like by the time when Meguiars got to SEMA, they knew exactly what products would be on the shelves of AutoZone, Walmart, O'Reilly, whoever. We use it as a platform to launch new items. And when digital media became even bigger, it became even more important for us to leverage, kind of meet and greets with media that would then shoot video right there and content creators and all of these things that before 2014, 15 wasn't there. Yeah. And now, like if you're a smart exhibitor that has some maturity, like SEMA is one of the best platforms to use, because also just the search volume of that week is insane because the event's going on. Much like there's a great search volume for hypercar and exotic car stuff during Car Week and other things for Festival of Speed. And there's these like tentpole moments in the year.
When we were at Hoonigan, we did a show called the 1 Hour SEMA Special, and we would get our overnight pass. So we got to walk the show when no one was there. And it would kill the editors because we would make an hour-long show that they had to edit that week. It had to come out that week or, at the end of the week. Or it had to come out, the Monday after at the absolute latest. And, the editors and the producers would always be like, why does this have to come out so quickly? And I'm like, because right now everyone's searching SEMA. And it would do 1 million views every time because people wanted to have the SEMA experience. And they got to have that by us walking them around the show. And it's like, that wouldn't do well a month later because
not as well.
It would still do, but that moment, everyone's talking about SEMA. As someone who used to constantly launch films at the back half of the year, we would never launch a film at SEMA. We did it once, but we realized that there was so much noise coming out of SEMA that it wasn't good for us.
Didn't you start doing it a week before?
So what we would do is we would do it the week before. So that way we would ride second week into SEMA and there'd be all this excitement about it. And now like Toyo's got, BJ Baldwin's truck hanging or the Hoonicorn. And now everyone had seen it. And then there's like a second hit that we would get it. Or we would announce the film was coming at SEMA, do a party, and then then it wouldn't come out for like another 2 weeks because it literally sucks all the air out of the space, and that's a great thing, right?
It's a great thing, and as a marketer, it's one of those things that it's like use it for what it is. It's a platform. So that's what when I meet brands now and we talk about it, because of my history with the show. I mean, my first show. Oddly enough, I went to Tokyo Auto Salon and the SEMA show for the first time in '97, and I haven't stopped.
If I remember correctly, the Tokyo Auto Salon was like how you first started with Super Street, right?
Yes.
They were like, "Hey, go do this thing."
Well, I told them they had to go; they didn't have budget, so they gave me film to shoot it, and I wasn't a shooter, and I'm like, "This is gonna suck." And they're like, "If it sucks, we won't use it." And then I came back and we developed the slide film, and it was and so Matt was like, this is good enough. He's like, can you write a story? I'm like, I'm an engineering student. And he's like, that's what we have copy editors for. That started my career at Super Street. But I went to SEMA the end of that year in 97, and I've watched it through all of its phases. But and I've been editor, car builder, small company selling body kits, big company selling car wax, now production. You just got to look at it as how do I use it as a platform for whatever I need to do? And that's the smart way to look at SEMA. Because if you get like pigeonholed into one story, like, oh, I don't need it for that. It's like, yeah, because you've already done that. Like, you use it for a different reason. And I think that's where some people get stuck. Like, like, oh, I don't know if I should still go to the SEMA show. Like, you just got to be smart how you use it. So,
were you involved in the like Creator of the Year project and all of that?
A little bit. That was more of a steering committee. To your point, I was aware of it. Most of the steering committees don't have anyone from staff. It's meant to be done by volunteers. So I knew about the people. It's called
steering committee.
Yeah, I knew about all the people that got nominated year one. I hosted the table actually, which was really weird because there's going to be one winner. And so I had made a recommendation after the second year to not have all these nominees because then everyone just feels like the first loser, especially if they've been nominated a couple times. So now we just have a winner. And it was Weston this last year. So I'm really curious to see who it is. And I never learned until like a week before. Like staff is really, I think it's part of the bylaws that it's kind of, we're kind of kept out of that so we don't sway it in any way.
I just bring it up because I would say that one of my critiques of SEMA a few years back was that creators couldn't get badges. Like there was no way in for them because they weren't traditional media. If they weren't associated to a company like Hoonigan, they weren't getting in. So like we'd be talking to guys who were like really big in YouTube and I'd be like, oh, you're going to SEMA? And they're like, I can't get a badge. You're like, what? So it was cool to see sort of not only a reversal of that, but then
really
like an embrace of the,
for sure.
Of the space around that.
We love even letting creators who have 1,000 followers in because it helps build their page. As long as they're creating good car content, we're gonna let you in. If you're not, even if you're huge, we may actually not let you in from a media perspective. But we've really embraced it. I mean, I think there's about 2,500 people that sign up that get through approved as media. About 1,500 are some sort of digital creator where they're creating content on social or on a blog or whatever it is. And that's a huge percentage, right?
I forget if it was last year or 2 years ago. I went to SEMA. I went in for just a day or a day and a half. And I'd been going for 20 years. And it just didn't occur to me that I didn't have a badge. Like I literally drove to Vegas. I got there and then I went, wait, I'm like not here with any. Like I had never not been there as part of an organization, a production company or whatever. And I like just texted Mike. I'm like, can I get a badge?
He went to the show office probably.
It was like literally like opening day. He's like, I cannot believe you don't have this badge, sorted. I'm like, I don't actually currently work for a company.
How was that feeling?
It was
because like I think you sold and then you left, right?
Yeah. So I sold Hoonigan almost 5 years ago now. Stayed for 2 years, left, and I left the industry because I had a non-compete. So I went and worked for Super Plastic, and they made like kind of like a Kid actually the guy who started Kid Robot started Super Plastic. So it was like they were in the vinyl toy space, like collectible space, but they also did animation stuff. So I was helping them produce and build out animations, and like I did this experience at Area 15 for them called Dopamine and like all these different things. So I was doing that at the time. So I was completely out of automotive.
I remember that. I don't like, I try to think about like if that ever happened to me, like walking in and not being tied to anything automotive.
Yeah, it was
like,
kind
what was
of
that feeling like?
It was actually a nice year.
Did you
first off, as someone who has done the Saturday to Sunday SEMA run,
which is grueling,
multiple years.
Yeah,
I did it my whole time at Rides and 0 to 60, and I did it a lot at Hoonigan because we'd be launching things, or when we started doing Burnyard, we're moving in on Friday before, right? And now all of a sudden I show up and I'm like just in and out for the day or in and out for 2 days. Like it's actually not enough time. You need more than 48 hours to walk the show.
If you want to walk the show.
Especially if it's like you and I were like, you know so many people. It's a huge reunion. You're catching up with all these friends. But it was actually I had no business there.
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's people like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like, what do you? I'm like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
I'm just here because I've been here for 20 years and I don't know what else to do in
This
November.
time of year, yeah.
Like I'm just here because it'd be weird not to be here.
Pandemic year was really odd.
Yeah.
That I was like, I don't know what to do this week.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
granted, you couldn't do it.
Like, I guess I'm going to celebrate Halloween.
Yeah, it was really odd.
I've gone through the rate, right? Like when you do SEMA for long enough, and you maybe can't agree because you work there now, you get to this point where you start saying you hate SEMA. You know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right? Like, and when I say I mean the show, right? Because it feels like this thing you have to go do.
Sure.
I definitely had a little moment of that in my life, but I have had a lot of fun at SEMA.
Yeah, me
like
too.
the parties, like getting to see all your friends, especially being East Coast for so long. It was that one time a year that I got to see everybody.
Yeah.
I met a lot of you guys in that area.
Yeah.
So it was like first time I ever met Nads was when he was doing Rice Boy TV, and I'm like sitting with him in you know in the media space, right? So like I always loved that part of it, and I still. And I want to choose my words because I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm so famous. But one of the things I dislike about SEMA now is it's very hard for me to walk through SEMA and enjoy it because I get recognized. My first couple of years there, I would do like all the main days, and then usually Thursday, like the marketing guys disappear. And my favorite thing was on Friday, I would just walk the show and just like really become a kid again.
Sure.
And like look at how they did that latch or that or this new product and just really enjoy it as like a consumer more than as like a pure
for the
person in the
business
industry.
side, which happens a lot.
And I try to get those, and that's why I would always get the night pass. Because on the night pass you get to walk, but you don't get to talk to people.
Yeah.
But you get to see a lot of things. But the last couple of times I've gone, I haven't had real business there. That's great.
Yeah.
It's great because you just kind of walk around, you catch up, you do this, you do that. It's really just a car show again.
That's me at Car Week.
Oh yeah,
and at Auto Salon. Well, Auto Salon there's a little bit of work, but
you know, I've never actually. This is going to be crazy to say.
You haven't been to Auto Salon?
I've never been to Japan.
Oh my god!
I'm going to Japan in 3 weeks. My first time ever. But
I want to talk to you afterwards.
I've never been, and one of the reasons I've never been is one, I don't fit in the cars, but I have always worked in groups where there was someone else more interested in the Japanese side. So like guys like her, or when I was at 0 to 60, there were other writers who either knew it better or knew the space better. So I would always send them, and in my head, I always thought the opportunity would come, and then 20 plus years passed, and I never have been. So
what are you going for?
Idler's race, RWB.
Okay. Ooh. Yeah. Are you gonna drive?
I wasn't invited to drive. I'm actually going out there to help tell a story.
Okay.
But Toshi was like, hey, I have a spare car, so I might drive on there. Yeah. So,
you're there.
Yeah.
What track?
I don't even know. I don't even know. It's all kind of brand new. And it's just something that's coming up.
I'm excited for
it.
We got to chat afterwards.
But it's one of those things where I kept thinking, like, I'll eventually go. And I just never been. Like, I've been so many places in the world. But haven't been to Japan.
That's so odd.
Yeah. Meanwhile, your introduction into the industry started because of a trip to Auto Salon.
Yeah,
it was the industry side of it, not just the enthusiast side.
It was.
What was it like back then? I mean, compared to what it is now.
It's still very similar.
Really?
Actually, I mean, there's a few things that are different. There's a lot more things in English.
Yeah.
Or like English characters, where before it was all Japanese characters. You got lost a lot.
Yeah.
The first Auto Salon I went to was in a different venue, so it wasn't as big. But there was definitely some booths that were just as large as OEM booths.
Oh, yeah.
And that's changed over the years, of course, because it's gotten more expensive. But, tuning culture in Japan has its own ebbs and flows. I mean, there was a huge decade where nobody brought any new cars out because the money just wasn't there, because Japan was still is in a recession, kind of, sort of, right? So luckily it's kind of turned back around the last 5 years or so. But I felt like from 2006 to 2015, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Like they were trying to fix up Priuses.
Yeah.
And it wasn't or Pri or whatever it's called. And so there wasn't like a new GTR coming out or a new thing to really modify. So I felt like they've had their struggles, but I still love going to Auto Salon.
It now feels like it's kind of back to that early energy because like all of the creators are going out, and there's like a huge market, and now everyone goes, and then like going to Ebisu is like part of the week and everything like that.
I see a lot of times I'll see more people in Japan than I do here.
I know that's what,
right? And it's like, oh, hey,
My joke always was we go to Vegas just to see everyone who lives in like
30
in the
minutes
South
away.
Bay. Like you live 10 blocks from me, but I see you in Vegas. So now that's Japan.
It's the coming together,
So while Nads was on the show,
Sure.
he talked about you guys going to Japan,
Yes,
and getting into some like particularly crazy stuff. And I think he was like, I don't know if I want to tell the story because of RJ. Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, we were talking about there's moments now I think that you and I will be like, nope.
Yeah, we're
Pull
like
over,
adults now.
Get me out of the car. So there was a moment. Nads on his pod talks about, we went to Osaka. We went with a company, Signal Auto. They took us everywhere. So the late night drifting, which is what that story that Nad told, where he had to brace himself. And then there was another night that we were going to dinner, and the owner of the company had a crazy color shift purple R34, not midnight purple, but kind of one of those House of Color colors. He's like, I'm going to give you guys a ride. It's kind of like a bonsai run, So we get in. This car has 2 brid seats. 4 of us get in. He's like, he wants to pack the car. Naderi's sitting up front. I'm sitting behind him in front of this carbon Kevlar bucket. And then our translator is the other person in the seat. We get in, the owner says, we're like putting our seatbelts on. He's like, no seatbelt though. No seatbelt. And we're like, okay. Like, we're trying to be like gracious guests. We're like, okay. He's like, okay, trust. So we're like, all right.
That's like something that if anyone who didn't have like a Japanese accent explaining this to you, you'd be like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It was like,
but somehow you're like, Sketchy. Oh, this is the spirit of racing. I have to do this.
So we take off, and this guy's going for it, and he's got like 2 settings in the car. I think he's done a street setting, so it's probably making like 600-700 horsepower, but it's an R34, right? And he's just booking it on like Osaka freeways. And I forget, it was like an interchange of some sort, and the traffic backs up, and he kind of sees it late, and he starts braking, but he forgets that we're like full of people. And so now I don't know how fast we're going, but we're going fast. And so now like he starts to brake really hard, and then he starts screaming. I thought he was saying low boost, but he was saying like no brakes or something.
Right.
And we're like careening towards like the back of this miniature like minivan. And I'm like, and I'm looking at the windshield. I'm looking at this carbon Kevlar seat. I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And remember I was telling you like there was this one moment I will not do that anymore, because I literally thought like, we're going to hit this car. I'm going to fly towards this carbon Kevlar seat, and that's it. That's going to be the end of me. So he lets off the brake. Luckily, he gets slow enough that he lets off the brake, and he kind of ricochets off the car next to this car that we're about to hit. So he kind of ricochets in this car, and then he kind of bones out again and calls like his people and be like, I just ricocheted off this car. Make sure you go to them, and we're going to go do the apology thing and make sure nobody's hurt. But that was like a moment of like life flashing like in front of my eyes, and that was it. That's the John Naderi and RJ almost died story in Osaka.
So are you now like you no longer get like you don't go for rides like that anymore?
I'll get in a track car with a race car driver as long as I'm harnessed in. Like no, there was another thing that I did with Valvoline called Drifting 101, where we got Kichi Tsuchiya, the Drift King, to reproduce the Drift Bible. Because it was a Valvoline thing that we did where we wanted
Drift Bibles.
Yeah, so good, right? So Valvoline had a goal to get a coupon for oil in the hands of everyone that walked into Hot Import Nights. And they came and we said, RJ, do you have any ideas on like how we do this? And it doesn't end up on the floor. Because at Hot Import Nights, you would turn all the lights on, you would see all this stuff on the floor. Like people that, they're trying to give away whatever. They're like, we want to give away a coupon for a carton of oil, but we don't want it to end up on the floor. I was like, how much money do you have? They're like, we've got a decent budget. You got any ideas? I'm like, yeah, I've got a pretty crazy one. I'm like, do you know that you sponsor this guy called the Drift King? Because I'd seen this Option magazine where there's this huge Valvoline logo on his race suit. And they're like, no, why? Why does it matter? I'm like, well, this movie called Tokyo Drift is coming out. And there's this whole drift series called Formula D and D1. And he did this thing called Drift Bible. I said, if we remade the Drift Bible and put the coupon in the DVD, I guarantee you none of those will end up on the floor. They're like, can you make that happen? I'm like, I have some friends, right? So I call Taro and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, can you get a hold of Tsuchiya-san and ask him if he's down to do this? He's like, yes. So we end up doing it. We do it. We film it after a D1 event. It might have been the Fontana one that you spoke about. Kazama's car was the K Office car, which is Tsuchiya's company. So we brought that car out and we refilmed Drift Bible. At the end, Tsuchiya was like, RJ, I want to give you a ride. And we're at Willow Springs at Horse Thief Mile. And he's like, and it wasn't really him, but the production team was like, seatbelt him in, but make it loose so he flies around. And that was the second time I was like, and after that I was like, never again. Because I almost got like, got sick.
Yeah.
Because I was just flying around the cockpit so much.
My two sketchiest times in a car, one was in Sweden. This was before anyone really knew what Gatbill was at the time.
Okay.
We went out there. We didn't even know what it was. We went there with 0 to 60. A friend of ours who was, actually we went to Norway. A friend of ours who was Swedish was like, oh, you should go to Scandinavia. They build these crazy cars. And this was before engine swaps from foreign manufacturers in a car was the thing, right? Where you're like, oh, I'm going to have a BMW engine in my Mercedes, right? Like no one was doing that here, but they were doing it there. So we went 0 to 60, and this guy was like, oh, get my car. It makes 1,200 horsepower. 1,200 horsepower was like not something that my brain knew how to understand. The Bugatti Veyron, which had just come out, only had 1,001 horsepower. I thought he was lying.
Okay.
We got into a car with no seatbelts, and it was like a Mercedes SL convertible that made like 1,200 horsepower, and we went down this narrow road in Norway, and I just remember thinking like, well,
die.
It's been fun.
This is how I'm gonna go
the car
out.
was all over the place. Like it was just like the wheel spin the whole time, and there's just like houses and telephone poles, and just not the kind of place to be doing this. And then I got out of the car and I'm like, I'm not doing that again. And then another time was in a donk.
Really?
I got into a donk that had like a ton of power. And at the time, it was probably like 600, but but the guy didn't know how to drive. And the car stepped out and he was just like, and I'm like wanting to just be like, move over, let me do this. Because he was doing everything wrong to collect the car. And amazingly, we didn't hit any of the cars on the street in North Carolina. But like, again, like no seatbelts, like convertible. Like, I don't know why. I'm just never getting into a convertible again now that I put those two stories together. But yeah, I'm now at the age.
Convertibles?
They were both convertibles, yeah.
Scary.
I think I'm just now at an age where I just have no interest of like someone showing me how fast their car is. And like people want to prove things to you, it's always bad.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in a lot of race cars, rally car drivers, very scary, but harness, helmet, Hans.
You feel a little safer.
You feel like there's something there.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, honestly, we were just saying, like, I won't ride with Zach. I was like, we were talking, that's how we talked before that we started this guy, Zach from Hoonigan. He doesn't ever put seatbelts in any of his trucks, and they're all like old fashioned leaf spring trucks that make 1,000 horsepower.
Ooh, that's scary. Yeah. I met Zach on at F1 Vegas. We were part of a group for Racing Bulls or something like that. So, cool guy.
Yeah.
Cool guy.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because he didn't like cars when he started at Hoonigan.
Really?
He was just a really good editor. And he was working.
Well, it's his whole life now.
Well, so he was working with. Do you remember? Bro Science? Are you familiar with that?
No.
So there was this guy. His like stage name was Don Mazzetti.
Sure.
And during the recession, he was like a writer or whatever, and he did a bunch of these like funny skits. And then he became really successful on YouTube doing kind of these skits, and he liked cars, so he did this thing called NARPM.
Okay.
And him and Zach worked with him on that. But Zach was a motorcycle guy, and he came to Hoonigan.
Right.
And we had him editing, but he was really funny, so we immediately put him in front of camera, but he was a bike guy. And I eventually said to him, like, hey, one of the fringe benefits of working here is like people give you parts to build cars.
Yep.
He was like, huh. So he built a car and sold it. And was like, oh, this is a good business. And now he's like, I don't even think he rides bikes ananymore. Now he like all he does is build like big.
Do you have any
V8
bikes?
Stuff. No, I had a Gixxer when I was younger, but it never. I don't know. It never really hit the same way.
Yeah, because I feel like there's an intersection sometimes.
Yeah.
4-wheel, 2-wheel, right?
I'm really big and I look really goofy on a motorcycle. And as someone who like, I stopped riding BMX because I look too goofy on a bike.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I think it's 6'8", like it's just like I probably look fine on a Harley, but I only had interest in sport bikes. So and I had like when I moved here, I had a bobber.
Sure.
But I enjoyed building it more than I enjoyed riding it. Yeah, especially in LA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I almost got into bikes, but it scared the living daylights out of me. So I'm like four wheels.
What'd you do? What were you riding?
It was mostly like what is it, R6 stuff?
Okay, yeah.
That kind of size, 600. I had a play brother. He's the guy that brought me to the street races that helped me fall in love with cars. He used to flip bikes.
Oh, okay.
So he would buy them,
Yep.
Fix them up, flip them. He would pick me up. I ended up working for him at a copy service company, and he would pick me up from school on a bike, and I would jump on the back of it. And he taught me how to ride, and I was like, "Ooh, this is scary."
It's funny because for me, the reason I first got really introduced to bikes was a buddy of mine who was the publisher of Mass Appeal got really into bikes, and I at that point just liked working on things, and he didn't really know how to work on stuff, and he had bought like a crash bike, and then he bought like basically two crash bikes, and we made one good bike out of it. But then I took all the leftovers and built another bike. So I was riding this like full like Mad Max Frankenstyle bike, and of course, because I grew up riding BMX, like the first thing I tried was nose wheelies. I barely could I barely understood like how to steer through a fast turn, but was already like trying to do tricks and stuff. So yeah, it was, and this is like in the middle of the city, so clearly that wasn't a good idea.
Did you destroy that bike then?
Yeah. So and then unfortunately a friend passed away, and I was like, all right, I just don't want to do things
that was the other thing. People would. It's not like if you go down, it's when you go down.
Yeah, that's. I mean, what they say, it's like there's three riders. There's like those who will crash, those who have crashed, and those who won't crash again.
Yeah,
and it's like that's the three ways, and it's like that's unfortunately my history with bikes is that. So the old with age comes a cage. So kind of enjoy cars.
So rally racing's still in the cards for you or no?
I would, if there was anything, either rally racing or Hillclimb are the two things I really like.
Have you been to Pikes, but you've never driven?
I've never driven Pikes as competitively. Yeah,
I could see you doing that.
That would be really fun. I really enjoy the European style hill climbs that are like 2 miles or 3 miles long. That's way more popular on the East Coast. Sure. So it's actually what, I don't know if you noticed, but Ryan Turk's been doing a lot of that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Ryan's been competing in the New England Hill Climb Association. Sure. And it's crazy because like you have Ryan showing up with like, you know, I think he's running the Celica there now, but there will be guys who will be in like old NASCARs, guys who will be in like open wheel cars. It's like, it feels very drag racing. It's like run what you brung, which there's an element of that at Pikes too, but I really like that.
Pikes it feels like it's becoming more commercialized and professional.
Yeah.
Than just run what you brung.
Well, especially ever since it's become all paved.
Yeah.
Because all paved has brought a new speed to it, and there's like now a new goal to chase.
Right.
I think one of the problems, and Will Rogie and I, who both have this like, you know, affinity for Pikes, we always talk about, you know, is this the golden era where like everything's fast again?
Sure.
Or was it the original like
on the dirt?
Yeah, the Rod Millen era where it was like all dirt,
all
right?
dirt.
The in-between era, which I think we were talking about before, felt like things slowed down. I think they actually got to this point where they just weren't breaking new records, right? Like Monster kept going there and, you know, just couldn't get into the, you know, good into the nines, couldn't break the 10-minute mark. And I think whenever sport has no more progression, like there's less interest for manufacturers to show up. And because of that, there's no less excitement, where right now, it's like every year there's like a new story coming out of Pike, so it's pretty interesting. But I don't know. I think I also really like endurance racing. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would do it, but I only because there's so much commitment that goes into it. But I don't know if there wasn't everything else in life, right? Like if I didn't have to worry about like my mortgage, my kid, like all those other things. I think the 3 events that I think would be really, any rally race, I don't really care. The Nürburgring 24-hour and the Baja.
Ooh.
The Baja 1000. I've done a lot of filming in Baja, and I've like worked with a lot of teams and trophy truck teams, guys like BJ Baldwin, Bryce Menzies, so on and so on. And like, that just seems to me, it's so like raw and lawless that it feels like it's a really good
you want to
bucket
do
list
trophy truck or something else?
I don't care. I would do it I don't think I have the speed for a trophy truck. I think doing it in like a class 5 or something like that would be fine. But yeah, I mean, we were supposed to do that we built this Baja bug called Scumbug at Hoonigan, and that was the original plan to do it. But I think we actually realized like we didn't have the budget to do it the
Baja,
way it really needed to be done, like with like
chase trucks
and all of that. And yeah, we did it because BF Goodrich like threw us a little bit of money, but they didn't throw us enough money to like really do it the right way.
Understand how
expensive racing is.
Racing,
just racing
Baja in general.
Yeah. What would you do?
Oh, that's a great question. I really fell in love with circuit driving, even though I'm not that great at it. So I'd love to do like a one make series. I tried to drive open wheel. I mean, that is some of the most challenging. And I drove it with no aero. It was like a Formula Ford, with a dog gearbox, a dog sequential gearbox. I cannot heel toe to save my life.
Really?
Yeah, like I've tried to learn different models. Where you put the foot aside, you roll your foot over. And maybe because I've been trying on so many different configurations that I haven't practiced enough one style. I kind of told myself I would do that on the S2000 because that's a great, pedal configuration. But yeah, through my life, I've just not been the great heel toe downshift person.
It's funny. It was something that I struggled to learn at first because my feet are so big. And then I went to do the Bob Bondurant school.
Yeah.
And
that was
Bob
Mustangs?
was like, at the time it was
Corvettes.
C5 Corvettes and Cadillacs.
Okay.
And I had to drive the Cadillac because with the cage I was too big for the vet. And Bob was like, "Oh, just do it this way," and it was like more of like it was more of like a toe, like a roll.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do it the other, like my foot just didn't work that way, and I was like my knee was all caught up and stuff. And then that was kind of like what clicked. I don't know.
It's tough. I mean, I can do it, but what happens is I put too much brake pressure, and it does the lunge forward. For the downshift. So that's what I'm trying to work on.
I used to always practice on the street. And what I realized the worst part about that is you're not putting the right amount of pressure. And you'd always be off on your timing. And then but I learned that like then on track, it just kind of would make sense. I don't know. So. So
circuit would be my goal if I could, do something from a racing perspective. It's this dream of being a gentleman driver.
Yeah.
Just like you, to show up. Dude,
it would be cool. I mean, I love racing. I think like I have a little bit of interest in doing. Have you ever heard of Lucky Dog?
No, what is that?
It's kind of like Lemons, but with like they take themselves a little bit more seriously. Like I think Lemons is very much about like the joke,
just
and
have
aesthetic,
fun,
and whatever. Which like I have nothing against, but Lucky Dog tries to be a little bit more. It's an endurance race.
Okay.
We were looking into it just to get endurance training to go race the Nürburgring, and they have a lot of events local, so you could go and do 12 hours of Chuck Waller or something like that, or Thunder Hill and whatever, and they do a bunch, and everybody's running like a mix of cars, but I think it has like a spend cap. So guys are running like E39 5 Series BMWs, and other guys are running E36s, but like there's
not so crazy.
Yeah, and I think everything has to be before 2000 and something, so it's like older cars, but like it looks the part, and again, no knock on Lemons. I Lemons is cool. I have a bunch of friends who do it, but aesthetically, I love motorsports as an aesthetic. And like if a vehicle next to me is shaped like a chicken, it just feels like I shouldn't be there.
It's not serious.
Like, we're
it's
like
not serious.
Like I pitched an idea to a friend of mine. I'm like, I want to do a Volkswagen Jetta single touring car, like VR6 touring car series. That's all 90s Jettas because they're not fast.
Right.
But like the Jetta looks like an old touring car. It looks good on like an 18 or 19 inch like touring wheel drop down. I mean, granted, 19's massive, but that is what they ran on the touring cars back in the day. And you could, and the VR6 sounds good. And like that's actually what matters. And there was this video that was circulating of a Jetta like series from the 90s, and the cars are like bouncing into each other, like going over the curbs. It just looks really cool. And I'm like, that looks like fun to me because aesthetically it also looks really good. And we were discussing building this series idea, and I said we'd have to control everyone's livery because all it takes is for one car to not look cool, and it ruins like the whole fleet. It's like it's why JGTC and DTM and all these things were great because the cars all looked sick.
Great. Okay, we'll have to make a pact to do a gentleman's race.
That's a good one.
at some point.
I'm gonna give you one last question.
Sure.
Man, we ran late. I thought we were gonna end at 2 hours. We were like an hour 40. Because by the way, for everyone listening, it is a warm day today in Long Beach, and we do not have air conditioning. It is not just RJ's amazing skincare treatment that keeps him looking this dewy. It's that it's about 90 degrees in here.
Yeah.
What do you think are the it cars right now of new cars you can buy in a dealership? Because we were, I think, spoiled when we were coming up with what was
the 90s
available
stuff
in
was
the
a
90s.
golden era.
We didn't realize how good it was. And it's a question I get from a lot of younger kids. Like, what's the car I can go buy that's either brand new or a few years old that's like the next like cool car to tune, build, and all of that?
It's tough because so many of the cars have so many aids that you can get a cool car that's fast.
Yeah.
But from a driving, like it fills your driving soul perspective, it's like tough, especially if you've driven something more analog. But my girlfriend's actually looking for a new car, and luckily she drives manual. So we just drove GR Corolla and Integra Type S. Both of those cars, I think, are great, cool cars that you can get now, slightly used or new. You could still mod them. You can still have fun with them in the same way that we did in the 90s. I think there's less and less of those, unfortunately. Like the sports car world, they're all great. They're all fast, but they might not be as great and fun to drive.
Especially for the price.
Because, I mean, even the Aston that I'm in, if I spec that in the new generation Vantage, it's like 50% more than what it was. And it's got all these aids, and it's heavier. And so, I think, the sports, Porsche does such a great job. And granted, the new GT3 is heavier than it's ever been.
But these are all expensive cars.
Yeah.
Like you're thinking about a 25-year-old. What do they get? Like I think the GR Corollas are it's on the upper left.
It's still 45 to 50K, which isn't cheap, but I guess that's the average price of a new car now.
It's crazy.
So for that, I would say GR Corolla, the 86 GR as well.
That's the one I think everyone goes to.
I mean, that's really good. I mean, its balance is great. You can have a lot of fun in it. The Integra Type S, which is basically a Type R that's been tuned differently and has a different vibe to it. I grew up in front wheel drives, and the traction that the latest Type Rs and Integra Type S's have doesn't have the torque steer. It can put down 300 plus horsepower, no problem, which is it's just a fun car to drive. So I think those would be the main. I'm trying to think if there's anything from Subaru.
BRZ, which is basically the same thing as the 86. Yeah.
And I feel like they're
Everything else has gotten
moving
big.
away from what they like what the WRX was.
Yeah, they're definitely more of the overland market that doesn't want trucks.
What's in the VW world? I guess
nothing. GTI or R, but like they're all bigger and heavier. They're not like I mean,
but that's the standard, right? You have to measure it on that. Not
on the current thing. Yeah.
I wish they brought GR Yaris here.
Yeah, I know.
That would be.
I agree. That's the right size car, and that's what they race for rally. Is
right,
the Yaris.
The Yaris, right? Yeah. That would be I would get that for every day. That would be the.
I was just walking past like an older gen Yaris the other day, and it was just sitting like perfectly, like framed like on a street.
Right.
I was like, that's a pretty good looking car. Like no one really ever built it. Like the Honda Fit became the cool small car, but like the Yaris just had a cool shape to it.
I think if you're young, you have to go used.
I know, that's it.
Because everything's so expensive.
But you think about it from our generation, a lot of us were building cars that were only a few years old.
Sure.
Like, we were building older cars, but like the Integra was new.
Yeah,
like,
fairly new.
Like you was still new. Like my Volkswagen that I bought when I first got it, you could still buy it in the dealership. I bought it used, but it was like a few years old used. Now it's like kids are buying the same. We're all fighting over the same cars.
Yeah,
we're all fighting. The other day, I referred to it as automotive gentrification because it's like we're all fighting. Like everybody wants the same. Like you're looking at a DC2, so's a 23-year-old. Because we like stopped making fun cars or something.
Well, and so much change in suspension geometry and for like manufacturing and cost. So like there's not many cars that are double wishbone and. They're not manual, and even in the gearboxes, because they make so few of them isn't fully sorted. And
let me ask you. We can end on this one, but from a SEMA side, are you guys actually seeing an aftermarket go back in time a little bit? Because for so long, so much of the aftermarket was about cars that were within the first 2 or 3 years, unless They were like muscle cars.
Sure.
But are we starting to see a return to golden era? Like I am obviously, I have a small POV because I see the brands that I like building stuff for the cars I like. But from a SEMA perspective, how are they dealing with the fact that we struggle to name a bunch of like cool new it cars for a younger generation?
I'm trying to think of the research. The research is showing a lot of growth more in off-road trucks, SUV, and CUVs. So it's on that side, it's growing in terms of accessorizing and modding.
I guess that's it. I guess I don't think about the truck space is just exploding, especially like overland.
So on the performance side, it's much more difficult because there are not as many new platforms. So there are brands that are having to find niches. Because there's also a lot of cars where the factory stopped making things, which was kind of a lot of the hot rod stuff, right? So you have a new body from this maker that makes a body or panels for whatever.
Look, you can get AE86 brand new bodies now.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like straight to your door. So I think that's going to be the next wave because even like Honda announced, they're starting to redo parts for NSX, right? Nissan and Nismo has had a refurb program for GTR for a while. And I'm curious to see if more companies jump on that bandwagon. Like, good luck buying an old 90s Honda and trying to find weather seals.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And take you like 10 years to build one with new parts, right? So our brand's or manufacturers going to notice this void and start to build components for it.
Which is what the market for classic cars was forever. It's just these are the new classics. And especially it being like all plastic and rubber that's like all deteriorated.
And there was one comment that someone made like, the cars for the collector cars for us are 90s cars that are built with a lot of plastic parts that are going to fade and crack. So I think there is an opportunity here for whether it's a 360 or a Golf or an Integra or a NSX even my S2000, which is an 09, there's things that need to be replaced, and I don't know if I can get it.
I have an 8.6. I have a Corolla. I have an old, Corolla 8.6.
Hachi.
I actually have a
511.
No, a coupe.
Oh,
so
coupe,
not technically Hachi, but
SR5.
SR, and I had the car came without taillights.
Oh,
and I had no idea that the taillights were going to cost a G. I was like, oh, good deal.
Yeah.
The guy was like, oh, I don't have any taillights. So I was like, that's fine.
Right.
And then people are like, oh, they're like, you just can't find them anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like stuff like that. And there's no one making, like
replacement
OEM
taillights.
replacement taillights. I was like, how does that not exist?
Yeah.
For a car that seems so popular.
It feels like there's a window right now because there's a lot of data that shows the cars that are increasing in value the most are these 90s cars that everyone's fighting for, whether you're 20 or 40s, or maybe even 50s like Nads, or even in the middle in the 30s. Like everybody wants like a cool 90s car. It's
We're all
just
fighting
the
over
era.
the same hot girl.
So it's like it's going up in price, but then you can't find any parts to restore it. So you're just like, so I'm hoping that as that need becomes even more of a void that isn't filled, that manufacturers start to wake up. I mean, you've got people that are doing Resto Mod 911s, Gunther Works, Singer, name it, and they're selling it for $1 million. Not that we have that kind of money, but what is the more attainable version of that? Is there a Gunther Works version of an E30 M3? Is there a Singer version of or an S2000R version that Evasive does that's more accessible than what they spent on that initial one? So, that excites me actually. I have one last question for you. You've seen lots of things. You're seeing lots of things. What's the one thing that really excites you in the culture in the industry?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think probably the thing that most excites me is seeing the excitement in a younger generation, because I owe so much to this hobby, right? I mean,
I feel the same way.
Right, I owe so much to it. Like, I grew up in New York City, was around a bunch of crazy shit, and like cars were like a safe path out.
Kind of saved your life in a way, right?
Up, right? And it then became, and then it was this thing again when I got into a career space, right? And like I failed out of college and then was able to still be successful because I leaned into that. So like I really want that to keep going. And I would say a few years ago, I was sitting with a bit of a bleak outlook, especially as you hear like, oh, it's only EVs and we're going to, I'm like, oh, this is just going to change. And not saying that it wouldn't continue, but it wasn't going to be a thing that maybe I recognized. And then I go to a Cars and Coffee and some 17-year-old kid's like, dude, is that an RS2?
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't believe you know what this is.
You restored your faith.
Yeah, and it's just like, it makes me excited that there is this younger generation that is excited. Like, for example, this show is a bunch of old dudes who come on the show, and
we're the old dudes now.
We are fucking the chopped unks of these young kids. And like, we come on this show and we reminisce about the nostalgia and how good it was when you had to read something in a magazine and this, that, and the other thing, and there were no technologies. But most of my audience is actually still under 35 or so, 32. Wow. So it's like, that's a cool thing to me, because even though it's there's still a younger audience who's looking at this and saying, yeah, I like this, I like the culture of it all. I have a mixed feeling of how hype it is right now, because you've been there, I've been there.
Yeah, a couple times.
It's a tidal wave. Yeah. And we all know what it feels like when the wave pulls back out and all of a sudden a ton of people lose their jobs because everyone built up to support this. Yeah. And then it falls out. So that part worries me, but I don't know. It's cool to see the new enthusiasts in the space. I don't know. I think right now we are at a really strong moment, and I just kind of want, like, as a culture, as a community, like, I think that's good. There's obviously a bunch of bad things we have to fix.
Sure. That's like, every generation.
But it's always is, right? Yeah. I mean, takeovers, and street racing had its own issues. Yeah. Takeovers have it now. I think it's different. That's its own pod. But the issues we're dealing with, EPA and all those, we'll figure our way around them as long as there is a younger enthusiast audience that wants to make it happen. Because at the end of the day, there is a business behind it all. Sure. And if enough people want to do it and it creates enough jobs, well, then like a piece of it has to exist, right?
I'll end on my philosophy that I think it'll always be around, whatever the platform is, because I think there's an innate human want to personalize things and make it your own. And even when there was the lull, I remember I would give these presentations at 3M and Meguiars, like, they're not getting their license at 16, but they're getting it at some point when it makes sense to get the license, right? Whether it's 25 or 30, because at some point, like, you want to have something that resembles your success or your personality, whatever that may be, and it just shifts. Yeah. And I feel like that it's why people are collectors. It's why people personalize whatever it is that they have. And to me, like, the vehicle may change, the platform may change, the propulsion may change, but this love to do something that's personal and then to share that with other people, is it going to continue with or without AI, with or without digital? For the SEMA show, the PRI show, we're seeing a resurgence because people want to see things in real life, because it's hard to tell what's real and isn't real on screen anymore. And you kind of want to like touch grass, right? And feel it yourself and see it for yourself. So I'm very hopeful. Yeah. Hopefully the wave is a tidal wave that continues for a long while and there isn't this pullback. But that's just me. I always look at the glass half full.
Yeah, you have a bit of an optimistic
I'm very optimistic. I get very excited in the things that fascinate me and the things that bring people together and the things that push like progression and momentum. So it's worked for me for 30 years. So I'm just going to keep riding the wave.
Well, I want to tell you, I think you've officially beat TJ's record.
Really?
Yeah, you haven't beaten JP's, but I think you beat TJ, and I feel like that's what you came here for, right?
Not really. So. I thought we'd be done in 2 hours too. But
so did I. But then, then you just get a groove.
Yeah.
I've noticed with the pods, in the beginning, you're like, oh, we're not even going to make it to an hour 40. Like I feel like and then all of a sudden it grooves, and that's I think what the audience likes the most is when you get into that sort of flow state. So thank you, dude, for coming on. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it.
It's been good. And I want to say, too, thank you for everything you've done for our community.
I
you
appreciate
have done
it.
a lot. Like, I was there when I was not in it, and I wasn't in the industry, and I was rooting for you.
That means a lot to me. Cool Thank you. Hopefully I can keep giving more.
Yeah. Sweet. Maybe one day we'll both be at SEMA.
Maybe. No,
you'll be on to the next thing.
We're going to go Gentleman Racing,
and we're going to go make the first Fast and Furious movie over again.
Yes.
Set in New York City.
All right. Because I know people make deals with you when they come here.
That is it. Usually we wait till the end. You set the deal in the beginning, but it's always like, hey, what's the deal? What's the thing we're going to go do?
Okay.
So, all right. Thanks, dude.
Peace.
The mailbox is full. The mailbox is full. The mailbox is full. Full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Each week you hear me talk about how great Heatwave sunglasses are, but today I want to talk about their co-founder Justin Hurdle and his fantastic taste in cars. Here's a quick sampling. Top of the list, he has a sick 3rd gen LSA powered sequentially shifted Pontiac GTA. On the flip side, he's got a 190E Cosworth Evo 1, if you know you know, plus a proper vintage NASCAR in the iconic Tide livery. What else? A rad C4 Vet, a race Miata, a GT3 RS, and another NASCAR. I can't keep track. Speaking of, he tracks all of his cars. But the pinnacle of his collection, a 92 Kenworth custom hauler / motorhome. I've never been more envious. Ugh. Anyway, go check him out, heatwavevisual.com, and help support a fellow vehicular hoarder. So what if all of his run? I'm a tool dork. My obsession might even dwarf my addiction to cars. I love collecting unique and specialty tools, which is how I initially fell in love with Wera. First off, they just make aesthetically pleasing tools. They feel good in your hand, they have a great finish, their sizes are universally color-coded, and they are super strong. In 2 decades, I've never broken a tool from Wera. I wish I could say the same about my other tools. But the thing I like the most about Wera is that they create clever solutions for your wrenching woes, because you need over-engineered tools to work on today's over-engineered cars. So if you're ready to step up your tool game, whether it's the Zyklop ratchet or the Joker wrenches, find them at weratools.com. Let's face it, living the low life does come with its drawbacks. When I first got my RWB 911, there were only 3 gas stations in all of Long Beach I could get into without ripping the front bumper off. Luckily, KW Suspensions then introduced the Hydro Lift system to raise your car to adult heights. The HLS2 lifts the front axle, while the HLS4 lifts them all. It's available as a complete kit or an add-on to your existing KW coilovers. And it works up to 50 miles an hour, meaning you don't have to take every dip in the road at that douchey 45-degree, 2-mile-an-hour crawl. Check out kwsuspensions.com to find a kit for your slammed ride.